So Ben, you say you got a plane? Or you do some flying?
No, I don't have a plane. That's maybe the next phase in my life. I'm learning to fly literally around the corner from this building. So I've been doing that over the past year. But obviously learning to fly in England is challenging because of the weather.
Oh, is it?
So you can book in like 12 sessions, but half get cancelled. Because you can't fly during cloud when you're learning. Because it has to be a clear day like today. And Britain's quite renowned for cloudy days.
What's it like when it's raining?
I can't do it either. No. So when you're learning, it's only in good conditions, which is kind of freaky because I guess once you got your license, you're up there in bad conditions. No, most of the little plane I'm learning in a Piper and a Cessna. Those, from my understanding, are aircraft that don't go out in that sort of weather anyway. You'd only go up if it looks pretty much like today does anyway, for safety reasons. They're flimsier than your car. It's amazing.
Yeah, I ended up on site for Nike.
Yeah.
Cal ended up getting me a job and I lost one of my jobs, and I was opposite sort of a like private airport where they were like practicing in their planes, and I had no idea like how small they were. Like they're absolutely tiny, like way smaller than a car. Why do you think you why do you want to learn how to fly?
So everyone asks that question.
Such a random like hobby though, isn't it?
It is. Well, everyone likes, if every person could fly, they probably would want to. Flying's just something we've always wanted to do.
It's pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah. So whenever someone, why are you doing it? It's because I have the time and the money. Those are the two reasons why most people don't. Unless you're actually scared of heights. The main reason is I don't have the time or I don't have the money, of which I fortunately have both. So I thought, why the hell not learn?
Yeah, it's a good one, to be fair. Cal, would you go for a little fly ever?
I probably would, to be fair. I'll probably give it a go. What goes into the learning process to get your license?
Oh, it's funny because I feel like one of my own students now. And intellectually, I understand how to fly. It's very straight. There's not a lot to it. But it's all the emotions and the feelings you have when you're doing certain things, like when you're coming into land. So you're coming in about 65 knots, which is give or take 70 miles. So you're coming in something flimsier than your car at 70 miles towards the ground. And a little bit of you, for me, slightly freaks out, you get so that's the emotional side. So it's like being detached from the emotion the outcome as I teach my clients. So it's weird because I get it, but still at times I slightly... my emotions get in the way, but it's a lot of fun. It's a beautiful way to see the world. And once I've got the license, I didn't realize this, but a kid, you could have your pilot's license before your driving license in the UK.
Oh. Really?
Yeah. So my goal is to be a good father. Is I want my daughter to have her pilot's license before she's like 16. And it would be like, I've set her up for life, right? Giving her a skill so I can teach her and then she can do the training once she's learned. So it's just awesome. And then you can just, like I say, you can fly in Europe with this license. So you can pop to Bruges or buy some chocolates or just nip to France.
Yeah.
If you want to do a cigarette run or something, I don't know. So it's just going to be a great way to see the world. And
mate, that's unreal, especially doing it with your daughter as well. That'd be such a nice way to spend some
it'd be a great
quality time.
Yeah, and give her something that'll set her up for life. Because it's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Once you've learned.
It's just like a car, isn't it, basically?
Once you've learned, you've got it.
How long does it take to get a license?
Well, it all depends on the individual, but you got to do a minimum of 40 hours. And the minimum, you'd have to be really good to be able to do it in the minimum, which I'm not. So this has been eked out over the last. So there's no time frame for me. I'm not I have to have it by X date. So I'm quite relaxed about it. So I've got to do my first solo flight soon. Then once you've done your first solo flight, there's only a few more bits after that. But that will be the scariest when you're up there on your own with no one next to you.
Oh, is it? So no one's like sort of guiding it with you or anything like that?
On your own. And because obviously that's where you're trying to get to. So you have to be of a certain level of competency before they'll let you do that. It's basically mastering landing. Taking off's pretty straightforward. Once you're up in the air, as long as you're competent, it's pretty safe. It's the landing that's the most challenging. And until you're and I'm still slightly freaking out with the landing. It's so annoying. It's only like the last 3 feet too. Everything's fine. I got the right speed, the right direction. But So anyway, I'm enjoying it. That's all that matters. Either way, I'm still flying.
Yeah. It's decent to be fair. Right. Obviously, with the landing, how important is like the confidence element with it?
Oh, it's emotion. it's something inside me kind of freaks out because you are coming at the it doesn't seem that fast until you're sitting in a tiny aircraft and and then you're freaking out. Yeah, I do. I've got to get over it, right? It's so annoying.
Could you compare it to like closing?
No, selling's so much easier. Selling, I mean, no one dies if you screw up selling, right? Yeah, this is an aircraft. We hit it wrong. And plus there's that fear, what if I damage this aircraft? I don't want to break somebody's plane.
Yeah, that's true.
Not you, just the plane then.
Yeah. So, yeah. But no, like I say, it's an enjoyable hobby. And I'll try and monetize it at some point because I don't plan to be in sales trading for the rest of my life.
Really?
No. Most people go into sales to make money so they can leave. Right, so that's the goal. So in a couple of years, my plan is to exit. Now, I may set up a small flying business, and I've got a friend who's done it. He bought a boat, but he didn't. And in order to buy the boat, he put it through his company, and then he charters it out several times a month. So he gets basically paid to do his hobby. Yeah, people pay you. So I thought I could do that. I could buy a plane and then do charter flights maybe a couple of times a month. That would cover the costs of owning a plane. And they're paying me to do my hobby.
Yeah, it's decent, to be fair.
It's not a bad way to live. So,
How much do planes cost? Obviously, I know it means the specs, probably everything, but...
Ragey. But so the one I'm in, you're looking, these things are like 40, 50 years old, but as long as they work. So you could probably pick up, I reckon, a second-hand one. I haven't looked on. You could pick one up for like £45,000.
That's not actually that bad.
Which isn't that bad. I mean, boats are actually, ironically, more expensive.
Yeah, boats are a bomb.
Yeah, but I've looked at boats too, and it's like, even the smallest aluminium dinghy, it's like, what the?
I know, yeah.
That? It's like, you got to be kidding me, right? It's like, so I thought, what are the odds it's cheaper to fly?
I know, yeah. Boats are just ridiculous. It's the maintenance of them as well.
Yeah, I think they say it's 10% of the cost of the boat.
Yes, so if you get a Sunseeker, pay $5 million, you're looking at $500K a year to run.
That's nuts.
So this is it. So yeah, you see why you have to be super wealthy to own anything like this, because it's the upkeep. It's not buying it.
It's 100%. It's the maintenance. It's the fuel. It's the, like you said earlier, it's the time to even be able to use it.
Yeah, and I guess this is why most of them are rented out. They lease them out to justify owning it.
100%. And also, it's not even just the owning it, is it? It's like, you kind of need the friends that are in a similar position in order to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Do you know what I mean?
It's funny, yeah.
You've got to be in like a network of lads that can just take a couple of days off to go in the boat, or like, go charter a fucking aeroplane or whatever it is.
Yeah. That's exactly, I was discussing it the other day about people that win the lottery. And I think it would be the biggest curse to win the lottery, because then you suddenly got more money than your social circle. What do you do?
I suppose you start attracting other people, didn't you?
Yeah, but of course, then people that have that other money will look at you and say, well, you're not really part of us because you didn't
earn it.
Make it, you didn't earn it or whatever. So then I think it'd be quite lonely winning the lottery, because people would be trying to hit you up all the time. Then if you pay for everything, it's like he's just showing off. You can't win, right?
Yeah.
It would be...
It's an interesting point. It's like networking community, isn't it? Yeah. Because like your community would change. Because you'd be hanging around with different people, which means you'd have a different network, but you wouldn't fit into that network.
Yeah.
How big do you think community is in sales?
Well, that's a good question. How big is community? I suppose in some ways, I don't know if I'm unique, but I'm quite a loner. So I'm a one-man band.
I've followed you on LinkedIn for, a long time.
Yeah.
And like I would definitely give you that 100%.
I'm a one-man band. I don't like the online sort of LinkedIn sales community where everybody sort of slaps each other on the back, and I just don't do that. And I've always wanted to be on the outside. I got asked to be a judge on some awards ceremony. It's quite a well-known awards, so I won't drop the name. And they asked me to be a judge, and I said no. And the guy was quite taken aback. He said, "What do you mean no?" Because I saw who the other judges were. They're all part of the establishment, they were from big companies and I said, no. He goes, why? I said, to be honest, because as soon as I join this, then I'm part of the establishment. I said, I don't want to be. I want to always be on the outside. So I don't get invited to anything because I don't fit in the mold. And I like that, because that's why my style of selling works quite well, because I don't fit the mold.
Yeah.
And my clients love it because it's very, very different. So I'm a loner. I'm a one-man band. I do everything, all the marketing, the content, all the selling, all the delivery, all the invoicing. I'm a control freak, I guess. So I'm quite lonely, but I spend my life with people, which is odd.
That's such a weird, like, double-edged sword, isn't it? Like, just like a juxtaposition. Like,
it's like being, a friend of mine said, it's like being a stand-up comic, because I'm an edutainer. I have to educate and entertain. Because, sales is a pretty dry subject done badly. So I have to, so it's like my friend said, it's like a one-man routine. I get up, I deliver a show, and then I go off. So
that is actually the perfect analogy for it.
Yeah.
Like, it is exactly like that.
yeah, I deliver a performance and then I leave. And so I've got all the energy and enthusiasm, and then people, how do you keep up the energy? It's like, well, it's my routine. But as soon as it's over,
I'm back to normal.
back to normal, right?
to
And it's
normal.
just, I'm sick of people.
Yeah.
Piss off.
Oh, mate, that's class. Especially on LinkedIn. Like, what is it with LinkedIn with the subtle gloating?
Well, all social media feeds narcissism. We live in an era of narcissism where everything is about the individual. It's you and your feelings are paramount. Yeah, and it's almost it's ludicrous now, because I think there's a whole generation of people being raised up to avoid adversity or challenge.
Yeah, it's insane.
definitely.
It's ludicrous.
It's insane.
And I was just discussing literally this yesterday. I was at my daughter's Christmas carol school singing. I was talking to a couple of other parents, and we were just discussing Canada. They introduced a euthanasia law that people could, kill themselves.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, it would only be restricted to certain types of people in certain circuits. But like with anything, once you open the gate, it slips. And now there are cases of people in Canada who literally say, I'm going to be made homeless. I can't afford the rent. I don't want to live anymore. And the state's saying, fine, we'll let you kill yourself. And it's like, it's almost if you got to the point where you're not allowed to have any form of challenge in your life. The moment you're threatened, take the easy way out. And
Snowflakes.
yeah, and that's an extreme example, but it feels like that. And LinkedIn and all social media feeds this, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Now, I use it because I have to, because it's a marketing platform. I take the piss, as you know, a lot.
You got recently banned, didn't you?
Yeah, momentarily got banned. So I've had to tone it back a bit. But there's all these influencers gloating about what. So I did one yesterday about helping out a homeless guy. But it was all made up nonsense. Everyone knew. It's like, no. In the end, I decided just to walk on by like I do every other day. But you get these influence going on there about how they did this wonderful thing. And it's just, shut up. If you're going to do something nice, no one should know. That's the whole point of giving.
Yeah.
So
there's always an ulterior motive, isn't it? If they have to show everybody what they're doing.
Well, it's purely say, look at me. And that's the extent of your award, is everyone say, oh, what a great guy. But that's the extent of it. So social media feeds into the narcissism of the era. I hate social media. I have to use it. A lot of people, it's funny, people say, you must love it. It's like, no, it's a necessary evil. But the day I don't have to be on it promoting my product or service, why would I be there?
I feel the exact same. Yeah, the exact same. Like we're going to start using it for the podcast a hell of a lot. And it's going to be like one of our main routes for exposure, LinkedIn specifically. And like, I've had to write a few posts recently, and like writing them, I feel cringy. Yeah. I'm just like, oh, this is cringe. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't want to come across like a jackass. Do you know what I mean? But like, I sound like a donut. Like this, and all it is describing podcasts, just because I wanted to like be neutral with it. But even now, I'm like, oh, it feels a bit like forced. Do you know what I mean?
We have a bit of internal friction anyway with
we
social media, don't we?
Yeah. Well, it's weird because what was I going to say? Oh, I had a train of thought that was just speaking, and I've lost it. No, I hate it when that happens. I had a thought, and it's gone. So you've got to keep feeding it. It's a beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're only as good as your last post. And I did a test. I didn't post for 2 weeks. Nobody noticed. Nobody inquired, are you alive? Are you okay? Are you fine? It's like, nobody gives a rat's ass. So you got to keep feeding this thing. And humans love drama. We always love drama because we've loved plays and theatre and reality. And LinkedIn's another form. And the best posts are the cheesiest, cringy posts about, I used to be addicted to methamphetamine and shooting, and then people love it and they applaud it. It's just like, Britain's Got Talent. Got to have the backstory.
It is, it's 100%.
Can't be,
And they put the sad music on as well after it.
It's for my nan who died and she always believed in me. And, just go away.
Mate, I feel the exact same. It's just cringy.
It is.
It sometimes when I'm reading through LinkedIn or even Twitter's better for me, when I read through LinkedIn, like I just think like, what a waste of time. Like what a waste of time that was, reading through like for 15, 20 minutes and thinking like, did I actually get any value out of that?
True.
And like with all things, it's changed. I mean, I started on LinkedIn in 2016, I remember. And it was very different back then. Far more formal and structured. And as it's attracted more and more people, it's got more and more Facebooky in a way, and people share loads of stuff.
It's like merged, isn't it?
Yeah.
LinkedIn and Facebook and
I had this guy on my, I had to unfollow him, but I had this guy on my LinkedIn who would pop a bottle of champagne on a Friday because he got clients, but he'd write a fat post about popping a bottle of bubbly. And I just thought, like, hey, you are a tosser.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it'd be more interesting if you wrote the post about getting the client.
yeah,
That'd
just
be
like
interesting.
popping a bottle, like, oh, all right, mate, nice
I
one.
know. It's everyone. I got an award today, so they have to put a photo.
I know,
I got
yeah.
a new job. You know, you got the post about how I'm leaving my new job, and it's so sad. It's such a I'm gonna miss them all. Then the next day, I'm so glad to be joining ABC Company. They're the most awesomest. And it's like, oh my goodness.
Mate, I think this is why your content does so well, though.
Yeah,
because it's real.
Yeah, I try to keep it as real as possible, and all the stories I share are real and based on events or things that have happened to me. And I'm out there all the time, so I've got a lot of stories. And interesting stories, because humans by nature are quite interesting. When you meet real people in the real world, strange stuff happens.
Yeah,
So,
like
yeah.
yeah, 100%. It's when it's not digital, it's like things always crop up.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm interested. Where did you actually grow up? Where were you born?
So I'm from New Zealand. So from a small town called Nelson, which is like Bournemouth, actually, on the coast. It's about 50,000 people when I was growing up. So quite a small town, top of the South Island. So I grew up there, and then I studied law in New Zealand.
What were you like when you were growing up? Because obviously, like New Zealand must be. I can imagine New Zealand's not too dissimilar to the UK, because obviously, you know, it's next to Australia as well. Like quite a similar culture, I can imagine, with certain things, but I can imagine it being at the same time quite different as well.
It is different. It's very laid back. Not a lot happens. I was saying it's so boring. It didn't even get COVID. You know, that's New Zealand, right? Everyone else is having a COVID party in New Zealand. Nah. We're going to opt out of that.
Yeah.
But so it's one of those places. I mean, and like anything, the grass is always greener on the other side. So growing up, it was I couldn't wait to leave, as you wanted to leave and see the world. But when I look back, it was a good childhood, very outdoorsy. Good weather. So it's a nice place to grow up. But again, you're harking back 20 years, 30 years, right? So much has changed as well. So things are always different. But no, so I still got family out there. I mean, my brother left once, came to England, hated it.
Really?
Yeah.
How long did he come for?
Like 2 weeks.
That's not even long enough to like try and immerse yourself into the culture.
Too many people, too busy. Because, you know, New Zealand's like the same size as England, land mass-wise. But there's like 5 million people.
Yeah.
Whereas Britain's
10%.
got 70 million on the same set of land. So no, he just didn't like it, which is fair enough. But I've stayed. All my friends from university ended up coming over here. We all ended up living again together in London. They all married English girls like I did. So we're here. So if I went home, I'd have no friends. I'd have to start again. I'm too old to make friends. You get to an age where you can't make friends.
Yeah,
You know, you're at that, and it's whoever you've got now is what you've got.
I feel like we're hitting that, Jack. I feel like we're hitting that age now, Jack.
I've felt that.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You don't have shared experiences. You meet people in business, and you get on well, and you can have great chats.
Their sound, you like them.
But you're never friends, really, because you don't have that history.
It's hard to get over that barrier of just being like acquaintances to mates.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because the jump is a lot. Like
a
I've known you
massive
for
jump.
11 years. Like how can I meet someone and have that same connection with someone after we've been through what we've been through for 11 years?
I know. And also hobbies, like we share hobbies. I'm
Yeah.
sure you do as well, Ben.
Yeah.
You share hobbies with your friends.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky. I mean, the friends I'm with, I've known the bulk of them. I met at my first year at university, so we've known each other since we were 18. I'm 46 next month. I've
It's a
still got
stint.
friends that I've known since I was a child. I've got like 5 mates. We met each other when we were like 10 or 11. But I've not added. So I've been in England 20 years, and I've not added anyone to the friend pool because all my friends came over. So I don't need to add any friends. So I've got a lot of English people that I'm good mates with and stuff. But other than my wife, I wouldn't put them on the friend
Yeah.
friends.
Inner circle.
Yeah. And the word friend is so overused as well.
100%. There's like, we've had a moment, we've talked about it on the podcast. Callum's dad sat us down. I think we were like 16 and we were like in this big group of lads and there was a bit of drama or this had happened, that had happened. And he was like, listen, lads, I always remember it because I think he'd come back after a night out.
Yeah, we'd come back and it was in his kitchen.
We had come back after a night out. And he was like, you'll be able to count your friends on one hand when you're older. Yeah. So just remember that. And I look at it now and I'm like, cool.
He's bang on.
He's bang on, isn't he?
Yeah, it's true.
You can't beat experience. You can't beat wisdom.
No.
Someone who's been through the process. So just to pull back, obviously, you know, when you are in New Zealand, what were you like at school and like what were you like as a young man?
Obnoxious. I was quite obnoxious, I would have thought. I was a rule breaker. I hated following the rules, so very rebellious. Every school report had the same thing, talks too much and distracts others. I wasn't very academic at school. Something about the school process I hated. But when I was able to go to university and was allowed to choose what I could learn, that's when I came into my own, and it was the law that I really loved. And so I got my law degree.
It's a bit of a curveball, right? Considering like where you're at today, like in terms of obviously with sales and like that industry, like why do you think you were like drawn to law?
I like the arguments. I grew up watching Rumpole of the Bailey and Matlock, and I loved the drama, the lawyer going in, the winning. I loved the David and Goliath scenario of the little underdog up against the state, proving them wrong and all of this. So I like that, and I've always liked a good debate. So that's what attracted me to law. I wanted to do criminal law too, so that's what I specialised in. Not many people want to do criminal law because of the nature. But again, to me, that was in the trenches proper law. You're in there fighting. I didn't want to be a solicitor drafting wills or contracts. It's just, that seems such a waste of a law degree, right? Yeah. So that's what drew me to the drama, I guess. It was the drama and the theatre that goes into trials. So I was meant to be doing it. It's funny how life turns out. But I realised very quickly I didn't have the personality for law.
What personality traits did you have?
I think you need to be a bit more submissive and humbling, and I found it hard to contain my my personality. So I wouldn't have fitted in with it's a very traditional conservative sort of environment. So I realised I was voted by my colleagues actually doing the bar training. There was a group of us doing it together, and we all got awards. And I was awarded most likely to be disbarred.
Really?
Because of my nature. Sure. You know, whenever we do mock trials, people used to moan at my style of questioning. But our pupil master said, well, it's because he's got a good style. You don't like it because he's quite aggressive in the way he goes about it. Yes, but that's what a trial lawyer's meant to be like. They ask those horrible questions. And so even at university 30 years ago, people were still a bit sensitive and soft. You know, universities breed sensitive, soft folk, I think.
Why do you think lawyers need to have a submissive personality?
I think it's just to defer to the judge.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if they make a ruling, and I remember one time a judge made a ruling and you knew it was wrong. And you were...
That happens all the time as well.
Yeah, it does. And you got to, and again, because you want to win, there's that competitive streak. And it's like, but you've made the wrong ruling. Like, I guess in a football game where the ref doesn't award a penalty, it's like, you should have. That's going to affect the entire rest of the game.
And it's someone's life.
Yeah.
And not only that, you've also got to maintain that relationship.
Yeah.
So you can't lash out at him and then you have him 6 months, 9 months.
So, it just didn't suit me. Which is weird. You know, they should do personality testing and stuff at university.
They should, yeah.
Definitely. They should. It would help. But I mean, I don't regret qualifying or doing all of it.
So did you stick it out then for the full time?
I qualified, got called to the bar, and then I decided to do some travel. And a friend of mine who was a lawyer, he said, why don't you go to England? He literally said, why don't you just... I said, I'm going to sell everything I own and hitchhike around New Zealand. He goes, why don't you just go to... why don't you go to England? I said, yeah, why not? So 6 weeks later, I arrived.
So was it like a plan to travel England or
no? I had no plan. It literally was, I don't want to work. How do I avoid getting a job? I figured going to another country would fix it, but it doesn't. I had to get a job when I got here, but I didn't think
it's quite a big, like you like obviously playing it down, to be fair. Like,
yeah, no,
it's quite a big decision.
It was a big life decision. And I remember all the mates that I'm still friends with now, my last night with them, and it's like, oh, well, guys, this is it sort of thing. So I don't even know if I'll see any of you ever again. It's like I'm literally leaving
To the other side of the world.
The other side of the world. It's like,
Were you scared?
I don't think I was scared. I was apprehensive.
Yeah.
I was excited because it's a new opportunity. I was sad though, because like I said, leaving all your friends, and it's like I'm literally leaving everything I know
To just
behind.
start fresh.
Start afresh.
And back
somewhere.
then, obviously, there was no like social. There was no like.
It was email. That was the extent of it. There was no social media. So, but hey, I got over here, and life is like that. It's like I said about the social media thing. If you don't post for 2 days, how quickly people forget you. And because life's so full, once you make a decision and go off, you can't spend it worrying about missing your friends. It's like, well, I've got to survive. So
Yeah.
and then you're consumed with your everyday existence. But then eventually they all came over and we all ended up meeting up again. And,
Oh, that's decent. Yeah.
it was quite, wow, come full circle. It's like perfect.
Making that definitive decision, because it is a definitive decision in sort of your journey. When you arrive here with no plan, like,
Yeah.
how do you hit the ground running? Like, what happens?
Well, I
next?
was fortunate because my father was here. So my
Okay.
parents are English. So my dad had come over a few years earlier. So I did have him as an anchor, but I wasn't going to stay with him. He was living in a little village down in Hampshire. So I stayed with him for about 3 weeks.
What does your dad do?
Well, he's now dead, unfortunately. He died of cancer.
Sorry to hear that,
No, he died of cancer about 11 years ago.
What did your dad do at that point?
Well, he was in the British military for when he was younger, and then he ran a hotel in Nelson. We had like one big hotel, so he was the guy that ran that. He was a bit of a jack of all trades, though. A bit of a Dell boy, though. He's from London, from Streatham.
Oh, right, nice.
Yeah. So he was a bit of he had so many schemes.
Yeah.
None of them ever worked. An art business didn't
That's
work.
class.
And I used to watch him, and that was, you know how when you grow up, there are bits of your parents you like and there are bits you don't.
Yeah.
And the bit about my father is I thought he never stuck anything through. It was, Dad, if you just followed one of these ideas, it might. But he didn't. He would move on to something else. It's
Pivot.
like magpie syndrome. It's all shiny and fun, and then as soon as it's tarnished, you look for the next shiny thing. And I have that in me. I know I have that in me, but this is why I decided to get really good at selling. I wanted to pick one thing and get really good at it, because then you'll make money. If you pick one thing and get really good at it, you'll make money. Yeah, I feel because we're supposed to talk about sales at some point. It's like salespeople read all these sales books, and I say, "Do you actually do anything in these books?"
Do you know what, mate? I've actually fell victim to that.
Yeah.
No, I genuinely have read like a fair few sales books, and at the moment I'm not selling because I'm working in a business, but it was a business I was attempting to build.
Yeah.
So trying to learn from the inside, and there's a bit more of a story to it. But now when I'm listening to, say, for example, whilst I'm working fanatical prospecting,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I'm not actually selling. I'm listening to this,
Yeah.
and granted, I'm trying to take it in and absorb it, but if I'm not practicing it, how can I actually be improving?
Exactly. And this is it. So I don't read sales books, because if you actually go through, they all pretty much say the same thing, just in a slightly different way with their own spin on it. And I've said, if you picked one methodology, spin, Zig Ziglar, banked, just one, and just wanted to master it, you'd probably do really well.
Yeah, you'd smash it.
But nobody does that. They bits and this and all of this, and then they're always just average at it. Or if it gets too tough or hard, they say this doesn't work. And I knew that with what I was getting good at, the things that I learned, that it would be really hard. It would take ages to master. And that's why I didn't quit, though.
10,000 hours.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't done 10,000 hours. I've done 10,000 hours of sales meetings. I know that. And so I knew it'd be hard. And every time I wanted to quit, saying this doesn't work, it would be, if you were competent at this, would it work? And the answer was always yes. And then the other voice was, well, then you either quit and admit it's beat you, or you keep going until you get competent.
Yeah, I rate that. Do you think the fact that you witnessed your dad have shiny object syndrome was sort of, and that sounds cringy when you say it, but sort of lurking in the subconscious?
Yeah, I suspect it was. We are the creatures of our programming, which is our childhood. So that's all there. So yes, there would be. I don't want to be like my dad was. I want to be able to achieve something a bit better and have more stability. And everybody, I guess, and parents always want their kids to do better than them. That's the general rule, right? And I know me and my two brothers, we've done better than financially, and sort of socially that our parents had. So they're pleased. They would be pleased with that if they were alive. But that would have been lurking in the background. And that's why I focused. But I did law, so I demonstrated if I'm also a bit of an addict. If I latch onto something that I like, I'm into it.
I think most males are like, I don't know, I say males, but like if you find something that you like and you're like a boy's boy, like you just want to do that all the time.
Yeah.
We've had this with podcasting.
Yeah.
We started like literally with some £50 mics in my lounge, and we were saying earlier on, we've maxed out one of the SD cards.
Yeah.
That's 250 hours. And we're thinking, before that, we had a fatter SD card and we maxed that out. So we're like, cool, we actually must be racking up the hours on these mics.
Just get obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's weird. But obviously, just to pull back, when you do come over to the UK, do you start working with your dad in the hotel?
No, that was in Nelson. I don't know what the hell he was working. I think it's some logistics company. So my first job in the United Kingdom was in London. I remember it. It was a company on North Wharf Road. I even remember that. It's funny because I'd never seen an underground train, right? So when you first come to London, the first time getting the underground train at Clapham South, you're standing in there and it's like, this is the most fascinating thing.
Yeah.
And then I got a job in Paddington. And I remember someone said to me, where do you live? I said, you know what? I couldn't even tell you. I said, I don't know. I have no idea. I said, I get on a train and I pop up. I couldn't even point in a direction. I couldn't. And I said, I've never experienced. I said, that's weird, right? And so it was selling advertising in magazines. And if you bought the advertising, you'd get to write an article. So these magazines were shite.
Yeah.
This is,
Yeah.
And it was £150 a week.
So was this your first role within sales?
First ever. Well, no, obviously as a kid, I'd done sales. I was asking if someone, when you first get into sales, you always think your first job. But actually, as a kid, every year we'd have, to raise money, the school would sell these shockingly crappy plastic products. Plastic lunch bag, plastic pegs, and you were supposed to go door to door in your neighbourhood and sell them to people to raise money.
That's decent. They should be doing that with kids now still.
Yeah. So I did that most years because you got to keep a percentage of what you made. Then we'd sell chocolates. The school would get chocolate bars. I'd sell those. Then you'd have the 40-hour famines. That was to raise money for starving kids. And you had to get sponsorship. So you'd have to go around and get people to sponsor you 20 cents an hour. If you did 40 hours, it's $8 they'd owe you. So I suppose my whole childhood, and then I bought and sold phone cards. I've always been selling.
On the side.
Never saw it, and it was, always did something. And what do you do if you've got a law degree and you're in England and you can't practice law?
So.
Yeah. What do you do? Yeah. You have no skill.
Yeah.
True.
You're young. I was thinner. I looked better in a suit, and I could speak without dribbling, and I could string sentences. And it's like everyone thought, well, he seems all right. Let's give him a shot. He'll do fine.
He'll do all right.
And that's it. You're now in the world of sales. Yeah. You got through the interview without dribbling. It's like you are now a salesman. And so I got that. I didn't last.
Was it telesales?
It was over the phone, yeah.
Cold outbound.
Absolutely cold outbound. And
Tough gig that. Cold calling,
Yeah.
magazines, PR,
it was awful. You don't get any training at all.
Is your script?
Here's
Don't
your
crack
script.
on.
Just read that over. Oh,
Standard.
my goodness. So I ended up quitting and getting a job as a dishwasher, pot scrubber.
How does that feel from getting like your law degree to being like, I'm fucking in England washing pans?
Well, this was good because this took me to Jersey. So I was on the tube and there was an advert for the Gumtree. I don't know if you know the website, the Gumtree.
What Gumtree?
The Gumtree.
It's selling website.
Is it called?
So we're going back.
Gumtree's
We're going back
crazy.
like to the year 2000.
Yeah,
now. So
yeah.
we're going back 22 years. That originally it was just an Australian, South African, and Kiwi notice board, and it was just flat shares and stuff for sale. And they had a job section, and on it was sick of London. Fancy spending your time on an island just off the coast. I thought, duh. So I phoned up this restaurant, right? And the guy said, well, I don't know if we really have any jobs for you. I said, well, no, I'm going to come out anyway. So I literally bought a ticket to Jersey and arrived and then rocked up with my backpack and my skateboard to this restaurant. And I was hoping to be a waiter or so. He goes, no. He goes, I tell you what, we need someone in a kitchen porter. What the hell's a kitchen porter? They scrub pots. It's like, well, I'm on an island. I don't know anybody. I've only got a backpack. I kind of need a job right now. I'll take it. So, yeah, it was interesting. So, but it was the experience. I'm all about experiences. I can't remember who said it, but you are but your memories.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. So memories, I've always been about having experiences. So I wasn't the least bothered by it. I didn't have an ego that said I'm better than this. It's like, well, you're not better than this because you need a job and you need to live, and this is the only thing that's going to pay you. So you have to do it.
How old were you at this point?
I would have been 23 or 4, something around that age.
Okay, because it's quite like a bold move, isn't it? From New Zealand to here, then straight over to Jersey.
Washing pots.
It must have been a tough. Like you say, you didn't have an ego with it, but it must have been like a tough gig to think like, oh, I've got a law degree, I've studied this hard, I've just gone into sales, it's not worked out. I'm now fucking washing pans in Jersey. Been sold by a Gumtree ad on the tube.
Sold by a Gumtree ad on the
got
tube.
me.
It got me here. It was interesting, but it was again, the experience was really enjoyable. I mean, it's a fascinating place, Jersey.
I've never been. No,
it's weird.
Yeah, I've heard it's weird.
It's weird, yeah. So I was there 4 or 5 months, I would have thought, over the summer. Yeah, and then I ended up coming back to England, and I'd managed to get a job at some point working in a pub on Jersey. I lied. He said, have you ever worked in a pub? I said, oh, yeah, my parents owned one. I needed, right? And I remember that at the end of the first shift, he said, you've never worked in a pub in your life. I said, no. He said, all right, well, look, the customers seem to like you. You're quite a nice guy, so, yeah, I'll give. It's like, what do you mean you'll give me a go? It's pulling. There's no skill to this. You know, a monkey could pick it up after a couple of shifts. So,
and the thing is, people rate chances.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you give it a go and you have a punt at it, and they're like, yeah, go on then, we'll give them a go.
So then I left and I arrived in Southampton. I got the ferry. It took me to Southampton. And so again, now I've turned up again, jobless, with a backpack and a skateboard in Southampton. And so I went to the Walkabout pub. There's a theme here, Gumtree Walkabout.
Yeah.
Got the newspaper, back in the day when you looked for jobs in the newspaper. And they had jobs, and there was a bar staff wanted. So I thought, okay, I'll go. It didn't open till 2 o'clock. I thought, fuck, it's like 9 in the morning. So then I thought, I'll try and find somewhere to live. And so I went and knocked on this guy's door, and he's had a room to rent. And he said, do you have a job? I said, no, but I'm looking for one today. He goes, well, I can't give you somewhere to live unless you got a job. I said, okay, all right, fine. So I went off, got this job, then went back and said, I got a job.
That's class.
And he said, all right, you can move in. And it was like, so in a day of arriving, I picked up a bar job and found somewhere to live, and that was it. So that's how I've always been. You just have to.
Mate, I'm completely with you. And the thing is, with getting a job, I actually believe anyone can get a job on the day.
Yes.
Or within the week if they actually want the job.
Yes.
Yeah. Like we've had it. Well, I had it last year. Left a company and needed a job whilst I was waiting for a placement. So went and called on one of the sales firms locally. Went and door knocked on 2 of them, and then I had 3 interviews and 1 offer within a week. And I was like, that's all it takes is literally being proactive and knocking on them doors and just asking for it.
Yeah. And being willing to do what's required to make money.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's only one job. I got a job working, I call it the box factory, because all it was a giant warehouse. And my job was you'd have a list with an order, and you had to put these boxes on a conveyor belt and it'd be put to it. I was doing that. And that, you'd have to get up at 4:30 to get this group coach into the office. And the reason I quit was, well, first the job was so dull, but it depressed me because you'd be in the smoko lounge, and I was like 23, 24 at the time, but there were guys in there in their mid-40s.
That's harsh, isn't it?
They were doing this, and then the highlight of their week was talking about how they had another job and the buffet that was unavailable. And I remember thinking, fucking hell.
That's a tough life.
It's like, I can't, it's like this, no. It's like, I can't do this. And I just didn't go in one day. And I'd never heard the expression before. I skipped 3 days in a row, just didn't turn up. And then the 4th day, I thought, I better go in. And then I got told I'd been P45'd. I thought, what the hell does P45?
It's a posh way to say
So you've been fired. It's like, it didn't even hurt, right?
Oh, decent.
But I literally just couldn't get up to go do it. Couldn't face it. That's the only time I've literally said no. But I saw those guys. I thought, it's just depressing me. I said, I know I won't be like that, but the fact I'm working with guys and this is the sum of their existence at that age, and it's like
heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
It's real. It is, and it's like, no, I got to get away from this.
Oh, it's so weird when you're like stuck in a scenario where you know you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to say it, but like, oh fuck it, I'll say it. But like, you feel like you're better than that.
Yes, well, you are. You should think that.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm better than this. I don't need to be in this environment with these people. And then on top of that, like, you're in a perpetual state of boredom because the job is so mundane.
Not stimulating. And they just look forward to their paycheck to blow on the weekend.
For 2, 3 days, 4 days where they have a laugh.
The cycle of just, it's like, no.
The thing is, those guys that are looking for those paychecks, they are better than that as well.
Of course they are.
They actually are. They just don't realise it.
I don't begrudge anyone doing those roles, but it should be a temporary thing. Those are all little stock, and all these jobs have to be done. So we're not knocking these things.
Oh, 100%. No.
What I'm knocking is you have to have an aspiration. You have to not want to do that. And unfortunately, some people just don't think they've got anything to offer, or they don't know how to get out of the cycle of being trapped. But I don't look down on anyone because I've done a lot of jobs, so I don't look down on it. It's a period in time. But it's how I decided to become a sales trainer. I was sitting at my desk one day.
This after the box factory.
So this is years now. So we go to about 2015.
And how old are you at this point?
Oh, I'd have been mid-30s, 37. And I was sitting at my desk prospecting.
So before that, just before we get to that point, have you sort of just been chopping and changing jobs whilst in England at that point?
Yeah. I ended up working between like 2000 and 2005, I was bouncing around from pub to pub, just did pub work.
Pub work?
Which I loved because it was all back in the day. It was all cash in hand, free board, basically free alcohol.
Did you used to have a few when you were working?
I'm amazed now. I mean, you turn up bladdered sometimes.
It's nuts.
But no one cared, depending on the type of pub you're in. So it was a great when you're a young, single, unattached guy. It was an awesome lifestyle. Save up money, go do a bit of travel, come back. Again, there was an agency that would set up Antipodeans with pub jobs. So again, we're going right back to the 2000s here. So I did that, and after 5 years, I thought, I've got to go home. Time to grow up. Let's go back.
How old were you when you had that penultimate moment?
27-ish.
I swear it's the age 25 to 27.
Yeah.
So you're like,
Literally where we're at.
I need to start getting things.
So I thought, right, time to go home. Time to pick up the career. Get back to New Zealand, and it hit me. It's like, I can't live here. It just boom. It was just.
I bet it's a cultural difference, isn't it?
So
living there
different
to London.
Oh yeah, it's just nah. So I spent 6 months there. I ended up fruit picking. We'd pick fruit down at Alex, which was fun, just out in the sun picking fruit.
Fun. It sounds fucking fruit picking.
It
sounds
was brutal,
hard.
but it was very social.
Yeah.
So you'd work from 6 a.m. through to about 10 because it's too hot after 10 a.m.
Your brother did it, didn't he?
Yeah, my little brother did it. He did avocado picking.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
It was so. I think he got paid so little that he used to steal the avocados and go to the local shop and sell it after.
Yeah, I think I got $4 a punnet of bloody cherries.
That's harsh pay.
And that was harsh. And you maybe pick 3 a day. So it's like 12 quid a day.
Fucking hell. It's just the heat as well.
Yeah,
Doing that in the heat for me would be like, whoa, that's...
Yes. Well, I remember you said, because birds attack the fruit. And you can't have birds attacking the fruit because they damage it and you can't sell it. So it used to be fun. I said it was like being in Vietnam because you'd be in all these trees picking fruit. There's a machine that would randomly go off making gunshot noises. There were also guys walking around with shotguns. And so you'd be there, there'd be guns going off, you're picking fruit. A helicopter, when it had rained, would come and buzz right over to blow the water off because the water, if it sits in the fruit, creates that little, you get that little sort of
Mate, you're in the
brown
Matrix.
marking.
You're literally in the Matrix.
So you've got helicopters, people shooting, and it's like, that's just like being in Nam, It's like, it was the craziest thing. But I did that, and then I thought, I can't live here. I've got to go back to England. There's nothing else. So I came back, and that's when I thought, well, I've got to get a proper job now. I can't just do pub work. That's how I began my career in sales.
Why did you choose sales at that point?
Because I had no skills. Sales is where you go when you've got nothing to offer the world.
That's true.
It literally is. I can't be a data entry guy. I don't know anything about that. It's no skill really, but I don't have it. I can do hospitality or anything that required no skill. Sales is it. And like I say, I can talk a good game. And that's
earning potential, right?
Yeah. And so my first job was in recruitment. That was my first sales job. Of course, I didn't really know it was a sales job. I thought it was a recruitment job.
It's just sales.
Yeah, but no, it's just sales.
Sales and placement.
Yeah, because I remember when I was looking for work and the recruiter would phone me up, I would say, "You've got such an easy job. All you do is phone people and offer them work. So I want to do what you do." And so I thought that I'll become a recruiter. Seems easy. No, turns out that was completely that. And that introduced me to the concept of cold calling.
So how did that recruitment role go specifically for you?
Badly. I was there for 6 months, didn't recruit a single person.
One. That must have been a record.
Yeah. In fact, it was so bad. I was given.
Why did they keep you?
Well, this is. It's funny actually. So, you start off with a cohort of like 20 of you join the company.
Go through like the work placement training.
And then within 3 months, that 20's been whittled down to maybe 4.
Yeah,
four.
yeah.
And they've all been spat out. Somehow I kept hanging on. And I remember though, one Friday, the regional director for London came up to me and said, "Benjamin, you've got a week. If you don't do anything, you're out. You've got a week." So this is a Friday. So I went to the pub as I did the day at lunchtime. I sat there with a Strongbow.
Oh,
Thinking,
that the choice of beer?
Yeah, it was back then, Strongbow. I did that.
Random one, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. We didn't really get cider in New Zealand. So I love Strongbow. So anyway, thinking, what the hell? I got a week. I don't have a job. I have no... Fuck. So I thought, fuck it. So I went in and all I did was hit the phones really hard. And I set up a load of appointments. And then my meeting on the Friday, the director didn't turn up and I got an email saying, "Benjamin, today's meeting will postpone to next Friday. Can you just do more of what you did this week?"
How many appointments had you booked?
That I can't remember. I honestly can't remember.
But a vast
But it was
amount
enough
compared
for
to-
him to say, "Do more of what you've done." So I did it again. So the following week we had the meeting and he said, "I'll tell you what, Benjamin." He goes, "This is good. You're very good. We struggle to get in front of people, but you've got something." He goes, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a new job. You don't have to do recruitment. You're not going to do that. You are just going to solely set appointments.
Book appointment
for
setting.
other people to go on."
Nice.
And he goes, "And I'll get a deal. I'll pay you for every new contact you put into the system. I'll pay you for every meeting and I'll give you your basic."
Isn't it funny that this all came from an ultimatum?
Yeah.
You've got 1 week.
1
As
week.
soon as you get given a deadline,
Pull
an
your finger
ultimatum,
out.
Deadline is everything.
you've got to sort that out.
Yeah.
And you've got no choice.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you either adapt and overcome or you sink.
And then
That's
you ain't
it.
sinking, are you?
I'm not going to sink. I remember thinking I'm too smart to sink. I still had an element of ego, so I'm not stupid. I can't fail. So that's how I got into prospecting. That's how I ended up. And then, ironically, I got poached by a company. Yeah, an ex-recruiter that worked there got another job at a lead gen agency that set up appointments for advertising agencies in London. And he just said, he goes, "I know a guy that would be great at this." And he told the MD. The MD phoned me. I had a meeting and he offered me a job. And that got me into the world of advertising. And I did that for 10 years, telephone prospecting for advertising agencies.
Can you remember the first cold call you did at the recruitment agency?
No.
No.
I remember the first meeting I got, though, with the advertising world, because it was with the the marketing director of the Times newspaper. That stood out to me because that was the first meeting I ever got. And I remember the guy that owned the company was like, "All right, this guy's going to be good." And I got 14 meetings in my first week. And he was like, "Whoa, you got something."
Yeah.
And
What do you think it was that you had at that point? Was it just the raw outbound strategy, just hammering the phones, or do you think it was a bit of everything molded in one?
it's one of those things that I realized later in life, because I used to get a lot of people say to me, "You're very good at getting appointments. Why are you good?" And I'd always say, "I don't know." And they would say, "If you could figure out why you're good, you'll probably make a lot of money being able to show other people how to do it." And I said, "I know certain things work, but I don't know why." And that's what got me interested in why do things work. So doing something and not knowing why is pointless. And I realized I spent a lot of time deliberately, I didn't know I was doing it, but I'd struggle. And what I I didn't know this at the time, but if you struggle, people want to help you. It's a subconscious thing. I used to always put on a fake stutter when I was telephone prospecting because I found people wouldn't hang up on a guy with a stutter.
Can you do it now?
I had to stop doing it eventually because I started
getting
to
too
doing
much,
it. Yeah. Habit. Yeah, but my headphones falling off.
That's class.
Yeah, I know. And so I would phone up. So can I please speak with Adrian? Can you tell him it's Benjamin?
The thing is, how can you hang up on that?
know,
You'd feel so hard hanging up on that.
And then I get
It's like his fucking son or something, wouldn't you?
and then you get through to people. I go, look, you got to help me out. And then and people just were nicer to me.
It's like sympathy vote.
And I said, I don't know why it works, but it seems to work. As I understood psychology, I started to figure out why that worked. And now I consciously struggle. It's a thing I deliberately do. And it's called beginner's luck, and I teach this. There's a concept. We all know what beginner's luck is. You have an inordinate amount of success, but you don't know why. And it's because when you don't know anything, particularly in sales, when you're a rookie, because you don't know what you're doing, you have a tendency to be more curious and ask better questions. You ask questions that only a rookie would ask. Someone says, where are you based? And you go, I don't actually know. What is that important? Right? But as you get more and more knowledge, does your product do X? Does it? When you don't know it, you go, I don't know. I have to go find out. I don't know. I'll go find out. Before I do, though, why do you need to know that? Or why is that important? Or blah. So you do that naturally. But as you get better over time, you fill your head with knowledge and information. The desire then is to impress people and show them how much you know. So the rookie would answer questions with questions because I don't know why you've asked. The amateur, as I call them, has all this knowledge and they get asked a question. Does it work on Windows? Does it? Not only does it work on Windows, it'll work on this. And then that scares the prospect because you didn't find out why they'd asked that question. So what a professional does is I do on purpose what a rookie did out of ignorance. And that's when you know you got it good. And so when I get asked a question, which to most people, they'd say, well, you've got to answer that because how could you not? It's like, well, a rookie wouldn't answer it. He'd ask a question. So I mastered the art of no matter what question I get asked, scratch my head and go, well, what do you mean? You know, Benjamin, have you ever worked with an insurance company before? That's a true case. I was working with a big insurance group down here and the CEO said, and I'd never had. And he looked at me and goes, Benjamin, have you ever worked with an insurance company before? I scratch my head. I go, what do you mean? People say, how can you say, what do you mean to something that's so obvious? Because I know that he will answer my question because we've all been programmed from birth to answer questions. So when I ask him one, he'll answer. I go, what do you mean? And then he says his true question. Well, my concern is if we're quite a regulated and niche industry.
Oh, mate, yeah, it's decent.
And my concern is that if you don't understand that, I'm not sure you'd really be able to help us. And then I do what a rookie goes. I go, okay, well, that makes sense. I go, so one last thing then. So are you saying that even if you believe what I do would work, you can't work with me if I don't have insurance experience? Then, of course, he goes, no, I'm not saying that. I go, well, what do you mean? Well, obvious if I believe what you do would work, then no, that wouldn't be a barrier. And then I go, oh, okay. See, now I can answer without hurting myself. Or because I know why, and then I go, okay, well, I'll be upfront with this. I've never worked for an insurance company before. I get the feeling you're going to ask me to leave. He goes, no, like I said. And then I walked out with an order.
Hey, that's class.
And on the first day of training, I explained what I'd done, and he just yells out from the back, "You bastard!" You know? But it was the power, because in the moment, people don't see us, and everybody says, if you do these things, people will see it. No. Because when a human being is talking about them, their world, and their life, they don't notice the fact that all you're doing is asking questions to get them to talk more. When someone's talking about themselves or their business, that's all they care about. They don't notice you asking questions because all I'm doing is getting them to talk about them. And that's what people love talking about. That's the skill of selling, is never talking about you. I'm amazed how many people I sell to who still don't know what they've bought. They just know sales training, but they don't know what the program looks like. It's just, so why are you buying from me? It's just, whatever you've done here, I want my guys to be able to do. Whatever has happened in this meeting, this whole conversation, the way you are, if we could be more like this, we'd sell more. Well, this is what I'm going to show you guys to do.
How does that then transition to the close?
Well, closing is always done in the wrong place.
So you close at the front end,
at the beginning.
front of the sale rather
I
than the
lock
end.
everything. I do all the hard stuff at the beginning.
So give me an example.
So if I meet you for the first time, I would, there's psychology here, and there's a bit of your brain called the adult ego state, which is all the logic and reason. So if you read the chimp paradox, he's got a definition for this. It's all, again, that's a rehash of transactional analysis. So basically, between the logical bits of our brain, I'm going to get us to agree certain things that are so logically consistent you can't argue. So let's do a role play. I'd say to you, so I'd say, so Kieran. It's Kieran, isn't it?
Jack.
Jack.
I love that. I'm Callum, by the way. You might have confused it.
You know,
Kieran? That's not Callum, bro.
Jack.
That might have been where the
Heaslip,
confusion
though. I got the
comes.
surname.
That's the one, bro.
No. See, it's a.
I feel like this is part of it.
So it's well, it could be the struggling, right? You see how people rescue you when you struggle? Yeah, and this is the thing you learn to rescue. So I deliberately struggle.
Were you trying to say he deliberately called you Kieran?
Yeah. You see people
Playing it down, bro.
And so I'd say, look, Jack, I'll be up front. I'm not for everybody. If at any point during this meeting you think I'm not right, can you tell me no today?
Yeah, of course.
Right. And do you mind if I ask you a lot of questions to figure out if you're right?
No problem.
And if I don't think I can help you based on your answers, would you be upset if I said, no, I can't work with you?
No. Yeah,
Sure.
I would appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. And look, if neither of us say no to each other then, what we'll do is we'll set aside a couple of minutes at the end and we'll agree a next step on how to move forwards. You comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
See, now it's locked in. I'm leaving a meeting with a no or a next step. Now, if you get to the end and say I need to think it over, I'll say, fine, just tell me no. Just say, Benjamin, I don't believe you can help me, and I'll leave. Do you know how hard it is to get people to say no? Especially if they think you can help them. No, I don't want to say no. We've got to say the other one. And you watch them struggling. And this is it. The only person who should be struggling or feeling pressure in the sale is the prospect, because they're the one with the problem. I don't need sales training. This is your problem, not mine. So I put all the pressure where it belongs, not on me. I got a warehouse full of stuff that works. I'm not here to convince you to work with me. No. You need to convince me why I should help you.
It's the mindset,
It's
right?
the mindset. It doesn't matter what product you sell. You have to convince me why we should help you. People say, convince us why we should work for you. So we're $1 billion company. Why the hell do we have to just... No. You convince us why we should use our time and resources to help you.
What an interesting flip
And
that
it
is.
flips it, and it fundamentally changes. And most salespeople just... The idea of doing that, because they've got this belief that the person with the money is in charge. Prospects don't even have to have money to get you in. They just have to lie and say, oh, yeah, we got budget. We've all lied. Have you got budget? Oh, yeah. No. You're looking at the Ferrari. Yeah, I can afford it. No, you can't. Just wasting your time, yeah? Because I want to look at a Ferrari or test drive it. I mean, even Tesla charged you to test drive. Because how many people want to test drive a Tesla that couldn't afford it?
So many, yeah.
So many. So no, you've got to pay to drive it. Because if you're going to pay, then there's a chance you're going to buy. Yeah? And even if you don't buy, at least we knew you had the money and you've decided this isn't for you. Or you just want a test drive, but at least you've paid us for our time. So it's not... So salespeople struggle with this because your whole life you've been brought up to believe that the person in authority, the person older than you, better than you, bigger than you, more serious than you is in charge. But it's not true when you're selling. I have the solution. The only thing you have is choice of where you spend your money. That's the only thing you have. But the moment I make it clear to you that your money has no power over me, you have nothing at all. And so I'm able to sit in front of people and say, look, I'd love to work with you. Fortunately, I don't need the business. I am financially independent.
What a weird environment that sets for framing that meeting. I don't actually need your business. I'm in a position where you need my service.
You need to fix a problem. Your only choice is who do you get to fix it? I could be one of the answers. And I'm saying if you want me to help fix it, then you have to do it my way or the highway. It's like going to a lawyer or a doctor. You can't go in and tell them what to do. Oi, doc, I want this. No. That's not how this works. I ask the questions, I diagnose, I write a prescription. If you don't like the prescription, fuck off. I don't care. That's what you're getting.
But that's class. That is.
And that's how I look at it. And I'm the same. I have the solution. I'm going to show you what it is. If you don't like it, fuck off. It's not, no, please buy my prescription. I mean, how many doctors sit there saying, these are my degrees. 7 years here. And they give you this whole presentation on why you should use them. That's what salespeople do. And they do it because prospects demand it and expect it. Well, you've got to do it because they want it. No, it's because you've given them the power. So I don't care. When I get in front of somebody, I don't need your money. And I had to act like this when I needed their money.
So when you were in the PR world, when you first went into the
Yes.
advertisement appointment setting,
Yeah.
obviously this philosophy is something that you've developed over time, right?
Over time, yeah.
What are you doing? Is it more unconscious in the behaviours when you're working through the sort of cold outbound at that point?
So at that point, so that was all unconscious. I didn't know why. And it was one of my, I worked 18 months for this company doing that. And then after 18 months.
Were you flying at that point?
No,
Yeah?
no. This flying only started like 2 years.
No, I mean the sales-wise, the appointments. Were they,
The appointment's going well.
Yeah. My bad.
And so I realised, though, this company was billing me out at, the agencies were paying him 3 to 4K a month for me. I had 3 or 4 clients at any given time, meaning he was making between 9 and 12 grand off of my meetings. And I was being paid 25K a year plus 50 quid or whatever it was for every meeting attended. And it just hit me.
Oh, mate,
I'm going to go find my own advertising agencies and selling this service. I mean, it can't be that hard. So that's what I did. I started cold calling agencies, getting appointments. And then I said, I tell you what, I'll do your phone calling for you like I've done with you, but I'll come and do it in your office. So I'll come and sit in your office for 1 day a week. That way you get to see and hear me. It's not outsourced. I'll be part of you. And the agent said, I like that. That's a much better way of doing it. So that's what I did. And so I went from earning like 25K plus commission overnight to like earning 50 grand because I picked up 3 clients. Each of them were going to pay me 2.5 grand a month. That's 7.5K just to sit in their office
Banging
1
the
day
phones.
a week making appointments. And they used to love listening to me. And I'd also, you've got a very unique way of talking to people. What is it? I don't know. I said, I have no idea. They go, well, I had one CEO and he said, we've hired so many different types of individuals and all that. No one has ever had the level of success. He goes, you need to figure out why you're good. He goes, because that's where the money is. And I parked the idea, but it was always lurking.
What was it like working for like 3, 4, however many agencies? Were you able to sort of see the insides of their business and their selling structure? And do you think that?
Well, this is it. Yeah. So I was, like I said, I was sitting at my desk one day, 35, prospecting. And it hit me and had an epiphany. You're going to be doing this at 50. And I thought, I can't. I failed in life if I'm still prospecting at 50. Something's gone wrong.
Why is prospecting like looked at like that though?
Because it's a crappy job.
It is, yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, there's all these people like this, I love prospecting. And whatever.
No one loves prospecting.
No, it's fine. I can do it, but you can't do this for 40 years. I mean, maybe some people can, but I don't. And I don't feel like I'm achieving a heck of a lot. And so what I started doing is, can I come on these meetings that I set? I'd love to see what you guys do. That's when I realized nobody knew how to sell. It hit me. Because I thought I'm not really a salesman. I set appointments. I sell myself in, but I don't do the selling. So I started going on to meetings and they all did the same thing. They'd turn up, there's a bit of bonding and rapport, a bit of chit chat. And then the meeting started 1 or 2 ways. The host would say, well, why don't I tell you about us? And then he'd vomit on you for 10 minutes and then go, okay, over to you. Or he'd say, why don't you start? Why don't you tell me about your agency? And then they'd go through their PowerPoint presentation. This is our foundations. These are our guiding principles. These are our clients. These are case studies. And there's questions back and forth and everybody's getting along fine. And then it comes to the end and 3 things would happen. They'd say, well, there's nothing for you now, but it's been very interesting. Yeah, we've got something. We've got a brief. Would you like to take a look at it? Actually, there's only 2 then. And then I'd leave those meetings and I'd say, was that a good meeting? They'd go, yeah. I go, why? Oh, they liked us. I said, yeah, but they have not buying.
There's no deal.
No. This is how you do it, Benjamin. It's all about building relationships. We've got our foot in the door. And I remember saying to one of them, I said, well, I don't know how to sell. I said, but this all seems wrong. And he goes, well, this is the way it is. And I remember thinking, no, there's got to be a better way. So that's what sort of sparked the idea to figure out how to sell.
What are your thoughts on rapport building?
Well, rapport is important. See, people, you hear the expression people buy people, but it's a misquote. Because if people bought people, sales trainers wouldn't exist. Right? So there's something else going on. It's people buy people like them. So 2 fat guys in Hawaiian shirts will sell to each other. Fat guy in a Hawaiian shirt took into a thin pinstriped accountant. The odds of doing business, slim.
Difficult, yeah.
So one of the challenges of a good salesman is they're a bit of a chameleon, and they're able to give the personality to the prospect that they need. So if you're meeting with someone in a suit and tie, who's suit and booted, you would try to mirror them and act like them, and you'd ask questions slightly different. You behave differently. But if you're meeting the big fat guy in the Hawaiian shirt, you change to adapt to him. So being quite adaptable is an important skill. And this is why you meet people that he's a natural salesman. And what has happened is they've naturally fallen into a sales sector that feeds their personality. And so they've always been it. But you can take a good salesman out of one sector, put them, and they bomb. So how can that happen? Oh, it's the product. It's the No. You are meeting people that aren't like you. And your personality's no longer carrying you. And you don't have the skills to sell because you're getting in front of people. Probably most of them are going to place an order anyway. Yeah? So that's when you start to realize, are you an order taker or are you a salesman? Are you naturally talking to people more like you, or are you getting in front of a diverse range of people and you're selling across the board?
I think that is something that's overlooked massively in sales, is the offer. So it depends on the product you're selling.
Yeah.
Like some products and some offers will sell themselves.
Yes.
But then the salesman will take the orders and act as if like they're top boy, and you're like, anyone could have sold that.
Well, most salesmen talk themselves out of deals. So true story, I was in the back of a cab on the way to a meeting. This is just before COVID. Yeah, 2019 it must have been. And I was rereading an email that the assistant to the CEO that I was meeting had sent me. And I don't know what it was, but there was something about the email and the way it was worded. And I got this feeling, I think they've already decided they want to work with me. But I didn't know. And I thought, well, how do I deal with this? Because I'm off to a sales meeting. And I said, okay, well, if I was my client, what would I say to my client? And I'd say to my client, well, wouldn't the obvious thing be to find out if they've already decided they want to buy from you? Okay, I go, well, how do I do that? And I sat there and I got the question. But again, you can't just ask a human being a question. You have to work them up to it, especially if it's a bit odd. So I met the CEO. He shook hands, had a bit of chit-chat, And I said, look, before we start, I said, can I ask you, a really weird question? And he goes, yeah. And then I pepper it even harder. Are you sure? I said, because whatever you answer is going to dictate how I behave for the rest of this meeting. Now they lean in. You go on.
Get interested.
Get curious. Yeah. I could say anything now, right? And I said, so my question is this. I said, have you already decided you want to work with me? And the purpose of today's meeting is to figure out what that would look like. Or do I need to convince you by the end of this meeting that I'm someone you should work with? I'd never asked that question before.
It's a bold question.
So I had no idea what was going to happen. And he being a typical CEO, so they're very confident, they're very self-assured, they got good self-esteem. He did what anyone. He looked at me, he goes, it's a good question. So, you know you're winning when you've got the top guy saying it's a good question. And he goes, well, let me put it this way. Now he's trying to stay in control. He goes, this is yours to lose. Now that's a non-answer, you see. So I want an answer. And I said, I like that. Give him a stroke. I said, I like that. Tough guy, yeah. I like that. I go, you do know, though, if we work together, the first thing I'll teach you is you can't lose something that you never had. I go, so what are you telling me?
He literally batted it from
yeah,
side to
batted
side.
it back. It's not. You didn't answer my question. This doesn't help. And he goes, yes, I do want to work with you. I said, so all we need to do is figure out what you want to achieve, when you want to do it, and can you afford my fee? He goes, pretty much. I said, well, that was easy. And we sat there for an hour, chatted, agreed on what, and I walked out with the order. And it's like, why have a sale meeting when you just have to take an order? So many sales folk go in probably trying to sell something that the people on the other side have already decided to buy. They've just never asked. So my whole job is just to develop better questions to speed up the whole process. And I've asked that question a dozen times now. And every time the answer's been yes. And I only do it when I get a sense that
Intuition.
it's right.
Yeah.
If it's not right, I don't ask. But I got to the point now where so many people contact me, I couldn't do all the conversation. So I start to charge now. So to talk to me, you got to pay 140 quid. That eliminates 85% of tire kickers. I'm Benjamin. I'd love to have a chat with you about some sales training. Book a consult call. Never hear from them again.
You ain't sending us the
I
invoice.
was about to say. I was literally about to
I
say.
know.
Don't bill us it, mate.
No, I won't bill you for this. But the people that buy, they book them.
Yeah.
So now, what I know now is they do want sales training. They just don't know if I'm the guy. So I've weeded out the people that I'm just intellectually curious about sales training from, no, we do need sales training. Are you the guy? I don't know. So I'll book a call. So the close rate on those is like 95% now because they've already pre-qualified. And I usually start off with that question. And about 90% of the time, they all say, well, yeah. So then all I've got to do is spend the next 40 minutes taking an order. Occasionally they say, no, I'd need to be convinced.
It's the frame, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all about up here in my head.
Like just the frame of that eradicates the risk of losing it.
Yeah.
Which is just such a weird concept to...
Well, you can't lose something you never had. And I live by that. So whenever I meet salespeople, we lost the deal. I go, no. When did you have it? We didn't. So shut up about losing. This is why you're so negative. You've never lost anything. You never had it. The only time you can lose a sale is if someone puts money in your bank account and takes it back. So we all know that handshakes, contracts mean nothing.
No,
Unless
money
you're
in the
willing
bank.
to go to court, which you're not because the costs will outweigh the value of the contract. Unless you get money in the account, you got no deal. And so I'm literally, until I get paid, I don't get excited. Doesn't matter how much they say, oh, yeah, no, we'll do it. Send us the invoice. I'll send it. As soon as it's paid, that's when I get happy. Up to that point, no. Because anything can happen until the check clears. Lots can happen. Human beings are very fickle.
I had to learn from personal experience. I used to do that. And then I always remember this big deal. And I was waiting on it. Just didn't come. And I just thought after that, it don't count until it's in the bank.
Yeah. It's got to be cleared funds. And
cleared as well.
Cleared. It's got to be cleared.
No pendant.
Yeah. And so you sometimes get amazed and say, what we're doing, it takes 2 hours to transfer money. I remember one guy I got in front of and he said he wanted to work with me, but he threw up. He goes, we have 60-day payment terms. And I know what it means, but I played dumb. I go, well, so what does that mean? He goes, well, when you invoice us, it'll take 60 days. I said, well, that's a long time to wait. He goes, I know, but those are our payment terms. I go, okay. I said, well, see, they blame a policy, right? So I can blame a policy. So I go, well, that's got to be a problem because my policy is 100% up front. I go, so how do we get around this? Now I flick it back. So how do we get around this? It's now your problem. And he goes, well, those are our terms. I go, okay. I said, then I guess, I don't know. How do we move forwards then? And he looks at me, he goes, I don't know.
Just a bat off.
And then I said, I've got an idea. Why don't we do this? I'll invoice you today and we'll start the training in 61 days. He goes, no, but I want the training to start sooner. I said, I want to be paid sooner. And he just goes, send me your invoice. No policy on payment came down with Moses as the 11th commandment. Any policy can be changed by the person at the top. They can authorize any payment to anyone. So this nonsense that people, we got to wait. No. It's like with the Tesco. You hear farmers complain they don't get paid enough for their milk and stuff. I heard this years ago. And I said, just stop selling milk. The moment you stop giving them milk, supermarket's going to have to, because what's the main reason you go into a supermarket? Milk. So if that's not there, you're going to go elsewhere. So all you do is you just withhold your stuff, just like the strikers are withholding labour to get what they want. Just withhold. You don't have to sell to someone.
Yeah, retract the product.
Retract it. And it's just people just scared. Oh, you can't do that. You can. It just takes courage.
I'm 100% with you. Yeah, you must have had it with deals before.
Yeah, we have
just
it.
pull back the deal. As soon as you pull it back, oh no, we need it.
Yeah,
or we want it. Like,
yeah. If you're not willing to walk away, then you have no bargaining power. So, and salespeople are so fixated. Got to get a deal. Got to get over the line. Got to get my and it's like no, you're needy. You're desperate. Prospects spot it and they use it against you.
100%. Obviously, through the sales training and actually training people, have you been able to sort of analyze? Well, I can assume you've been able to analyze your own selling game.
Yes.
And has the training of those individuals been able to how much of an impact has that had on your ability to sell?
Well, it's been massive because the thing with being a sales trainer, is on the one hand, you got people that are very skeptical. Yeah, there's that expression: those that do, those that can't teach. Which isn't true because I went to law school, right? And I had to be taught law. But all of those people could practice it and were probably very good in courtrooms. So it's a bit of it, but it's a phrase that people like to use. So when you get in front of a group of people, part of them want you to fail, part of them kind of they want you to win. And the beauty of it is salespeople always throw things at you. What if this happens? What if that happens? What would you do? Yeah. So that's forced me very, very quickly to learn how to adapt and to deal with it. Now, there's nothing that a salesperson can say to me that I haven't heard, though. So everything they say, they think's really smart and original.
They're just like objections, isn't they?
But it's like, And then it's like, you do realize, though, that everything you're moaning about happens because of the way you've previously behaved. If you start behaving and acting differently, you get treated differently. And if you get treated differently, all the things you're now moaning about don't happen. And they're stuck in this mindset, but this is what always happens because you're behaving a certain way. Change how you behave and these things disappear. But it's scary to behave differently. So my job is to teach people how to behave and act differently. Once you behave and act differently, you get different responses. All the objections that you're used to encountering start to disappear because you haven't created a framework for them to come up. So my job is to change behavior and mindset. And it's incredibly hard.
Yeah, changing someone's mindset is like...
Yeah, because they've got to change the behavior first.
Yeah.
And the mindset says the behavior won't work. So the mindset normally wins. And they give up. That's why they quit.
I did Jordan Belfort's straight line theory.
Oh, yes.
What do you think of Jordan Belfort, by the way?
No comment.
The whole.
Come on, give us something.
Well, different strokes for different folks. I'm going to be upfront like that. I'm not for everybody. I'm not everybody's flavour. There'll be some people out there that say the guy's a complete nut. Yeah, I get that. There are other people out there who really like what I do. Belfort's to say, if you're not a Marmite character in your sphere, then you're doing something wrong. If you're something, I think...
Polarize him.
Yeah, you've got to be, right? So I think Jordan Belfort probably works really well for a certain type of personality, and they do really well with it. For others, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So I'm not into, I don't want to slag on. There's so many different people out there. We're all different in our own ways, but we all do similar things. But it's different strokes for different folks. You couldn't put me in front of a room full of accountants and lawyers.
100%. And
wouldn't work.
Obviously, like, you're the UK's most hated sales trainer. He's US. And there's always a difference between UK and US. US guys are always just like over the top and exaggerate everything. But what I did do on his course, which was actually decent, it was 60 days. You just have to try what he says for 60 days in terms of output and increasing your action. And that in itself made a huge difference.
Yes.
Just by increasing the action, which is so simple and so like obvious, but you just don't think of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, it's like I said, I'm amazed people pay me for what I teach because to me it's just common sense. And that's most things in life are common sense. We've overcomplicated them. And it's fear and it's all these programmings that we got. But once you let go and you realize the prospect is the one with the problem, not me. Once you accept that, then you can start acting like someone who has a solution as opposed to someone who needs to sell a solution.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just flipping it.
Yeah.
Jack's just touched on it then. Why have you branded yourself as the UK's most hated salesman?
Love it, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's good, isn't it?
Because salesmen probably want to be loved, don't they?
That's exactly why I did it. So when I first started it, there's a guy called Brad Burton. He's known as the UK's, number one.
We had him on the podcast last
There you
week.
go. So I was talking to him yesterday. Me and him are friends.
Oh, mate, he's class.
He is. And he saw me speak at an event. And he was very successful at the time. He ran for networking. And he was the only person I wanted to impress when I realized he was going to be at this event. So I stood up and I just let rip. And he made a beeline for me afterwards and said, we got to have a chat. And then he said, how come I've never heard of you? I said, because I'm a nobody. And he goes, you got something. He goes, but you need a hook. You need a personality. You need something. And I go, well, how did you become? He goes, page 26 or chapter 4, whatever it was of my book. And you go to it, he goes, how did I become the UK's number one motivator? I made it up.
He said that to us. It was fucking so funny.
And he goes, so I started off as the UK's second best motivational speaker. That's why I went with that. And he laughed. He said, that's quite good. And I go, if people ever ask why you're number one, I say, I can't be asked. But then I quit because I'm not a motivational speaker. It didn't work. So then I started thinking, well, what can I be? And then Brad also said, if I was to say to you, I am the greatest, who do you think of? Muhammad Ali. Exactly, but he wasn't the greatest boxer. There's been plenty, but he kept saying it, so now he owns it. So you've got to find a space to own it. So I went on LinkedIn, and you're right, everyone on LinkedIn in sales. Number one, guru, top performer, best, excel, leader, professional, creator. I thought no one wants to be hated. Nobody wants to be hated. So that means I can plant my flag, and I'll own that space. No, I mean, only an idiot would come along and say, no, I'm more hated. It just doesn't work. And that was it. So I started UK's most hated. And then Trump came along with the red hat. And I thought, well, everyone hates Trump. Nick the hat, just change America to salesman, and bang, you've now got a character. And then I like the KFC logo. It's just the Colonel. And so I got a logo of just me with the hat, UK's most hated, get a Union flag in there. And from that, it just... the hardest thing, the weirdest thing was when you go to an event and you'd actually have to stand up and introduce yourself. It's so weird. My name's Benjamin. I'm the UK's most hated. And it's like so weird because I've just made it up. There literally is no body that assigned me this title. So it was really weird to start with. But it stuck, and people would say, you've got such great branding. Who came up? I thought, I came up. And it's like, it's so simple but works.
After like hearing that, it just makes me think like, what could we do for the podcast?
Yeah.
I
Where
can't
can we
help
stamp
it.
our
like,
flag?
I know,
You find a space and just stamp it. And then scream the loudest so no one can come and take it.
Yeah.
And like I say, no one can come along and say, no, I'm more hated. It'd just be weird. Why would you want to do it anyway?
Hate off.
Yeah.
Do you think you get any more hate because you are branded as the most hated?
Do you even get hate?
I used to. When I first started out, I didn't really have any real reputation. So it's like, who is this idiot? So pattern interrupts. There are a dime a dozen now on LinkedIn. Every day some SDR's got a new pattern interrupt for cold calling. So when I first started writing about these in about 2017, people used to say I was an idiot. That's stupid, and that there's pattern. And so I used to get a lot of vitriol, which was good in the day because it was a fight, and I liked a good fight. And then what I decided to start doing is the people that would slag me off on LinkedIn, I started cold calling them using the tactics.
Mate, I've seen your YouTube
LinkedIn
videos
lovers,
as well.
And I'd phone, and it worked on them every time because when you're not behind the keyboard in the safety of time and you can write yourself, when it's happening to you in the moment,
I remember these videos, yeah.
And they would all go along with it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started playing those videos, the comments, the negativity just dried up because I went from being some idiot who was talking shite to actually he's demonstrated everything he does on camera. And so that's how the business started to develop. Then I had the Mike Winnett interview, and then there was me sitting on a couch doing a cold call.
So just to pull back before we dive into that, obviously you do the stint at the PR agency, sort of chopping and changing and getting involved in their businesses. Yeah. You then go into the closing, which is obviously the appointments. How does that roll out from there?
Sorry, you've lost me. What do you mean?
Sorry. So, when you went to the marketing agencies.
Oh, yeah. So selling, doing the prospecting.
You started sitting in on the meetings. Yeah. And when you started sitting on the meetings, you were like, there's a better way to sell than this. How does it roll out from there?
So then I started a journey of trying to figure out how to sell. And in the process of reading and learning things, I met another guy called Marcus Kelke, sales trainer. And he introduced me to some concepts that revolutionized how I thought about things. And he was brilliant. He still is. He's still around. I'm still in contact with him. And I spent some time with him. And he helped me understand the psychology. It's all about the psychology. And he introduced me to some concepts, which I really liked. And I thought, okay, it was like a moment. It was like a lawyer. Selling is a bit of a process. It's a system. And if everybody does their thing, then whatever happens at the end, even if you don't like it, if everyone does their bit right, whatever it is probably right. You don't have to like it, but it's probably the right outcome. So I decided to master certain things. One was being in control. One was detaching emotionally. And the other was never answering a question. And I thought, if I can master these things, I'll be really good at selling. Because selling is a communication skill. And it's getting to the truth. Why am I really here? What's really going on? And I know for a fact that everything you're telling me is not the whole truth because you're allowed to lie to a salesman, which means whatever you're telling me isn't true. So all I got to do is get to the truth. If I can get to the truth, we're either going to figure out we can work together or we can't. So that became my passion, was figuring out how do I get people to tell me the truth. And that's all through questioning. And it's learning the art of asking questions in certain ways that compel people to give answers. And as they're giving them, stuff starts to drop out that would have been held back, but they don't realize it's happening. And from that, I can build up a better picture. So I started this journey. And what I did is thought, well, I want to teach people how to sell, but I need to learn how to sell. So I started selling in sales training without really knowing what I was doing, and prospecting on the side. And I got to a point, though, where because I was earning money from the prospecting, I think I was being a bit half-assed with the sales training. So I made a decision, which was a hard decision. I said to my wife, right, that's it. I'm going to master this art of selling, which means I have to quit the prospecting business.
The safety net.
The safety net. I said, so we're going to live on our credit cards until I master this. And we had a baby about 9 months old at the time, living in a rented accommodation.
How did that conversation go? Because,
I'm lucky I've got a supportive wife, and my wife said, well, I believe in you. If you are adamant you can do this, and I'm sure you can. I said, it's going to be tough. This is going to be hard. I said, because I don't know what's going to happen. I said, look, the beauty is we don't have anything. We've got each other. I said, so the worst case scenario is bankruptcy. That's the absolute worst. And I think it was either Brad or Marcus, one of them said, can you live with the worst outcome? I said, yeah, because bankruptcy is just starting at zero. It's just hit the reset button, right? Fuck it. So, yeah, let's do it. And that was it, knowing that bankruptcy. And I nearly did go bankrupt. I had to make a decision between going bankrupt or coming to an agreement with creditors. All my creditors were banks, so I never felt bad. I didn't owe any person or business at banks, and they make money up anyway. It's not real money.
Fractional banking.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was all credit card debt. But when you get to rock bottom, almost bust, it was perfect because I said to my, you know what? We can't get any lower. It can only get better from here.
What does that feel like, being in that situation, in that moment with creditors calling?
It's really scary. Because I felt like a failure. It's the ego. The reality is we'll be fine because you'll always get through. But it was my ego. And it's like, I can't believe this is beating me. How can this beat me? I mean, this isn't rocket. I'm not trying to figure out how to split the atom here. This stuff is all there anyway. I'm learning it. It's not like I'm even inventing anything. Yeah, I didn't invent answering a question with a question. It's called Socratic questioning. Socrates is credited with it. So, it's been around for 5,000 years. So why? So that's what annoyed me. And I'm like a dog with a bone. I thought, I can't let this beat me.
Why do you think it was beating you at that point?
Again, mindset. It was when you first try and get good at something, you start to use it as a weapon. And so you're going out trying to beat people with it. So your intent is wrong. So the intent of selling is, my job now isn't to sell to anyone. I don't care if I sell. My job is to figure out, do you have a problem I fix? Do you accept you have those problems? And can you convince me you want to fix them? That's all I'm interested in. If I get those three things, the odds are we'll work together. But it's funny because people can have problems but don't accept they're a problem. And you probably know people in your personal life. I hate my job, then quit. No, I need it. Then shut the fuck up.
Fuck, that's me.
Yeah?
No, but I'm joking.
Yeah, no. So you got to accept you got the problem. And then the second thing is, if someone can't convince you they want to fix or eliminate the problem, they're not going to spend money.
Yeah.
So that was it. All I got to get is those three things. And that doesn't require talking about my product or my service at all. That's about me getting them to tell me what the hell is really going on here. Why am I really here?
So on that, is that where you not master, but is that where you acquire that skill at the point of bankruptcy?
Yeah, I'm sure there are people out there that don't have to hit right. I'm like an extreme guy. It's either all or nothing. And I think for me, I had to get right to the bottom before this voice kicked in and said, well, you got to do it now. This is it. And every time I wanted to quit this, I would ask myself, as I said that question earlier, if you were competent at these things, would you be successful? The answer was always yes. And then the other voice said, so you either quit and admit it's beat you, or you keep going out there until you get good. Those are your options. Both are unpleasant. quit and admit you're a failure, go out there and keep getting hurt and crying into your soup saying this don't work. Those are the two choices. Which is it going to be? If I quit, I'm exactly where I'm going to be anyway. It's never going to get any better. The other one at least has hope at the end of the tunnel, but God knows how long it's
not an option.
Hard. And the other one, well, you could go back to New Zealand and become a lawyer. So I don't want to go back to New Zealand and become a lawyer. I have nothing to offer the world now. I'm literally, you're at that point. After you've been in sales for 3 years, I'd been in it longer, but I'd say after you've been in sales for 3 years, you realize very quickly you have no transferable skill set. I have never seen a job saying, wanted ex-salesman. Bring your ex-salesman skills to this job. There are none. You are stuck. That's why most salespeople are average. They earn just enough to be happy, or not even happy, to get by. Yeah, they always want more money, but why don't they make more? Because they don't do what's required to get better. They do just enough. And so I think most people are trapped in sales. It's more of a sentence than a career. Because what do? You're 45 years old. You've been in sales for 15 years. Unless you retrain as a nurse or a doctor or something completely different, what do you do?
I would actually argue that sales is one of the best skills for a foundation level, because if you then package that with a service or a B2B business, you can already sell the product, right?
Well, this is it. Sales is a skill, but most people don't have it. Most people take orders. You ask most salespeople, why did you win that deal? And I say, because the product was good. No, bollocks to that. What did you do? And they can't answer. You ask a surgeon, why do your patients not die? He doesn't say it's my winning personality. Luck. Yeah. Why? Do you know how many times I've done this operation? I know every cut. I know every incision. I know how long, how deep. I could do it blindfolded with one eye. I know exactly what I'm doing. You ask a trial lawyer, why do you always win? Because I know everything is mapped out, every single step. I know if I ask this, they're going to say this. I'll say this. I know where I'm going. Salespeople, they love to wing it. Seat of their pants. That is not a skill.
It's not, you're right.
That is not a skill. It's not hard getting money from someone. There are people sitting next to ATM machines right now. People are giving them money. There's no skill required to get money off of another human being. So to be a salesperson, you have to know why you did what you did and why it worked.
It's a process.
It's a process. And if you can't say, well, this is exactly what happened, it's just dumb luck or right place, right time. Yeah, like they say, no one sells IBM, or no one ever got fired for buying IBM, because IBM said you bought the brand. So all this crap about build a personal brand. Not if you're working for a giant corporate that's spent billions creating a brand. You don't need a personal brand.
It's the product,
It's
right?
the product, right? You've just not going to fuck it up. You're more of a manager than a salesperson. Just manage the process of them buying.
Yeah.
Placing the order. Don't screw it up. But selling is going out and finding people who didn't know they needed what you have and getting them to discover that they do. That's selling. That's what setting up a business is. That's why most businesses fail. Within the first 18 months, they fail. Why? Because they think it's the field of dreams. Build it and they will come. No.
Got to get it to them.
You got to get it in front of them. You got to sell it. And because you're passionate about it, because it's your baby, you're so emotionally attached, you just go in there and vomit on them and try and convince them with your energy. Sometimes it works. And you get deals and you go, I'm a salesman. Yeah? No, you can't keep that. Just repeat that. Just keep repeating it. It won't work. It gets to a point where that doesn't work. Yeah? So that's not a skill. So the average salesman, why did you win? Well, the product was good. No. What did you do, though? Well, we gave a great presentation. What the fuck does that mean, gave a great presentation? What did you do? And they can't give you an answer. And that means you're not a professional.
Yeah.
You cannot say why you did what you did and why it worked. Whereas I can talk you through why I do everything I do and why it works.
So obviously on that then, when it does start working, when you're on the brink of bankruptcy, what happens and how does it develop? Because like what you're saying now is the finished product, right?
Yeah.
But at that point, you've not got a finished product.
No.
So how does it develop and how do you start gaining momentum?
So you start to get small wins under your belt. You start to see things working. You start to know. You go out and you consciously do something deliberately and then you get the reaction that you were expecting. Okay, so this works. This question elicits this answer. This question elicits this answer. And then there's always a range. And then I was able to figure, if I ask this question, there are 4 statistically likely answers. And then once I know those 4, I then challenge that next answer. And if I say that, then there's a range. And so it's almost like a giant mind map, like a game of chess. So now when I'm in front of a prospect, no matter what they say, I'm already 3 steps ahead. I know where this conversation is going to go before they do.
You're directing the convo.
So yes, you're like a conductor. So all I got to do is not ruin it. Just sit back and ask my questions
flow out.
and let them get there. And I was role playing with a client the other day. How do you get around this? And we did a role play. And even in the role play, he ended up wanting to buy. He goes, fuck. He goes, how did you do that? He goes, because even in the role play, I wanted to. I go, because all I did was get you to figure it out through the questions. Because I knew if I asked you this, you would say this or this or this. And if you said this, I would say this or this. And I'll get you there. And if I can't get you there, it's because you can't be got, which means it's a no-go. So, and it was just getting that. And then you have little moments along the way where you get external. Everyone needs external affirmation. Is that the word? Or whatever. So I got in front of a very successful man, ran a very successful business listed on the stock market.
Is this whilst you're doing the sales training?
Whilst I'm doing the sales training.
Yeah.
I was in a room full of people teaching them telephone prospecting. I said, bring your data and I'll phone on it. And I cold called this guy on a company. Had no idea how big this company was. I just left a voicemail on his mobile phone and he phoned me back, ironically. And I got a meeting in front of all these people. And I'm like, wow. And I did everything that I said. I followed everything I did. Got a meeting. And then we set a meeting like 6 weeks out, and I kind of dismissed it. Then I got an email from this guy saying, are we meeting next week? And I was like, yeah, I still need to sell, right? Then I thought, well, I should look up this company. It turned out, it's not some small, tiny little company. It was a big list. And I was holy, well, this is different. So I went and met him.
Was that like a like pivotal moment where you're like, fuck, I can get in front of the big boys?
So I got in front of this guy, and then I get in front of him. We spent an hour and a half. And I get to the end of the meeting, and the CEO just says to me, he goes, tell you what, Benjamin, he goes, I want to work with you. He goes, I don't even know what you're going to charge. He goes, but I just know you've got something that I need and that we need as a business. And he goes, so let's do it. And I remember walking out of that meeting thinking to myself, that's amazing. This guy drives a Lamborghini. He's worth tens of millions. He could quit it. But to have a guy like that say, you've got something.
Positive reinforcement.
It was suddenly then inside, my nurturing parent, the little voice you've been waiting to hear, said, you are good at what you do. And then that boost, the belief then kicked in, and it's like, didn't make my ego grow, but it said, the belief said, just keep doing what you're doing. But now there was even more certainty behind it. And then luck is opportunity, preparation meaning opportunity. And then I had those videos of me on the couch and me with Mike Winnett. And they came out roughly around the same time. And this was also around the same time I had this meeting with this guy. So all of a sudden, all my hard work and experience suddenly got all these different touch points of, a positive external acknowledgement.
Recognition.
And at that point, that's when things just took off, went from almost zero to boom. And then, now, like I say, I went from doing this to nearly being bankrupt to we paid cash for our home. I don't even have a mortgage,
That's unreal.
I went straight from renting to owning. I've never had a mortgage. And I said, that's quite a success. My wife said, yes, you are remarkably successful, because I still downplay at times because I still want to keep. But I'm learning to fly. My daughter's in private school. But 6 years ago, we were skint.
Is that how long it took? 6 years?
Yeah.
It's not even that long.
No, it felt during it. We laughed. We were just even last night we were discussing, because I had another good year, and I was just saying, what we've accrued in the last 12 months. And my wife said, do you remember when 20 quid was a lot of money? I said, yes. And I just said, it's so funny how things have changed so much. And she goes, I had no idea you were going to be so successful. I said, I knew I would. I just never thought we'd actually quite get here. So, no, it's been a journey though, but it's been hard. People only ever see the finished article.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're like, it all came at one moment, but it was 6 years.
It was years of getting good at
graft.
it. And then it's like, you don't notice you're losing weight. Because it's not until somebody who hasn't seen you for 6 weeks and they say, gosh, you've lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Sometimes I feel like when you are training or trying to lose weight, you look in the mirror all of a sudden and you actually see a difference.
Yeah.
Personally. So sometimes if I'm trying to, if I'm running or if I'm trying to build a bit of muscle, I won't notice anything in myself in the mirror, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I actually look different.
8 weeks later, you're like, fucking hell, I look all right.
But I've never ever looked at myself and thought there's been a slight difference there, or a
Yeah.
slight difference there. It's like,
It's-
wow, there's a big difference.
It's so slow changes, and then and you just look back and suddenly you realise how far you've come without realising it.
Yeah.
And that was my journey. And that's anyone's journey. You don't become a top QC or KC as they are now because the Queen's gone. To be a top KC and get paid your 15,000, 20,000 pounds a day, that takes years to get there. You don't just graduate law school and then within a year you've become one. It doesn't work like that. And you just gradually get better and better and better at what you do until you're at a point where people are willing to pay you a fortune for what you do. And that was my goal. And because I was supposed to be a lawyer, I said to my wife, I need to earn as much as a top lawyer does to justify having never followed the career that I was meant to or desired to.
Has your sales training ever not worked for people?
Has it not worked? Yes. Because sales training is, like I said, it's like a diet program. All diets work. But why do people not lose weight? It's because they don't follow it. So I get asked this question and I teach this to my clients. If someone says to me, and I do get it, so Benjamin, how do we know the training will work? I always say, do you want me to tell you the truth or tell you the answer I think you want to hear?
Truth.
And they go, the truth. I go, okay, honestly? So I don't know. And then they look at you perplexed. What do you mean you don't know? I say, I don't know. Okay, so why would we hire you? I go, what's a good question? I go, well, let me ask you a question before I answer. If we do this, can you promise me you'll do what I say, as I say, in the manner that I say, no matter how uncomfortable, how awkward, or how counterintuitive it is? Can you promise me that? No one ever says, yes. They say, I'd like to hope so, or I definitely think we do, or we would certainly put in the effort. Whatever word they use, I use back. So if they say, well, I'd like to hope so, I go, in that case, I'd like to hope the training works. And then a little penny drops. I get it. If we don't do what you're meant to do, then it won't work. And at the end of my first training session, I always ask one question. Is there any reason you can give me logically why this would not work in your world if you could do it? That's all I ask. Can you give me a reason logically why this would not, it doesn't feel right or I'm uncomfortable, but I don't give a toss about your feelings. Is there any reason why this wouldn't work logically in your world if you could do it? And if the answers will no, then shut up and get on with it. If it fails, it's not my fault because you've acknowledged it would work if you could do it. Diet plans are the same. Will it work if you follow it? Yes, then follow it. But it's hard, it's uncomfortable, I don't like it, then shut the fuck up.
It's bang on though, isn't it?
It is bang on.
It's bang on.
So I'm honest. And this is why people like me, because I never say, oh, yeah, I guarantee you'll get this return. I have no idea. But I can guarantee one thing, if you do it, you'll get the results that you desire. But I have no idea if you're going to do it. So don't blame me if it don't work.
That's the only way to sell.
Yeah.
It's the only logical way to sell what you're selling because you can't put a guarantee on it, right?
No, you can't guarantee anything. And this, again, it would be a lie.
It would be, yeah.
I also get some people say to me, well, can we talk to existing customers? I go, of course you can. I go, what are you hoping they're going to say? And then they say, well, I'm hoping they're going to say that by using you, they made a lot of money. I go, well, I hope they're going to say that too, but they're not. They look at you and they go, well, what are they going to say? I go, they're going to say the same thing because they've all been trained by me. What's that? I go, they're going to say this. It worked for us. I don't know about you. And then they get it.
Drops.
And it's, so no one's ever had to check a reference because that's true. Will IBM work for us? I don't know. You can phone our client. Did it work for us? Well, I have no idea. Are you going to implement the system the way they tell you going to do it? I don't know. But we did what he said and it worked. It's up to you. So that way, and it's so logical and it's so true, this is why people don't argue with it. It's like, no, you're right. Now, they can either then say, well, I'm still not going to do it because I don't, well, then fine. I don't.
We're never going to buy in the first place.
Yeah. So this is all I do is get people to discover for themselves the answer to their own question. That's all selling is. I don't answer any questions. You know the answer. You know the answer to your objections, sir. Just going to get you to figure it out.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's such a good way to flip it. And I've said that a few times on the podcast, but
it is.
Someone who's interested in sales to hear it from you firsthand. I'm like, that makes so much more sense.
It's incredibly liberating. My wife says it must be fun to be you because you just don't care. Yeah. I said, no, I can sit in front of anyone. I don't care. I'm not trying to sell. I'm just trying to get to the truth. And getting to the truth means I get to ask some really awkward, tough questions. And that's a lot of fun. And I get to do what I do. And like I say, when you get good at what I do, the hardest thing for me is not laughing in a sales meeting because I know what's going on. The other people don't.
You can already like play it out.
Yeah. I've just started work with a company. I told them no. I wrote them an email explaining why I didn't want to work with them. And I didn't hear from them for 3 weeks. I thought, then I got a phone call back saying, no, Benjamin, we don't accept this. We want to work with you. So I can't even get rid of people, even though I was serious. And I said, well, I'll work with you, but as long as I've told you the reasons why I don't want to do it, no, we're fine. We really do believe compared to all the others, you're the one for us. That's fine. And I'm working with them and they're happy. So, but yeah, it's just, I don't need to sell.
Yeah.
It's a mindset.
Yeah. I love it, mate. I genuinely love it.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Obviously, you mentioned about buying a house outright, cash,
Yes.
and obviously the lawyer in terms of the salary element.
Yeah.
Do you have goals?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you a firm believer in goals?
Yes,
Yeah.
You have to have goals. So I had a clear goal to achieve this year. I wanted a certain amount of cash in my account, and I had to hit it. And I was saying to my wife, I was like, at the beginning of December, I said, I'm £12,000 off of this target. I said, I got to get there. And she's like, why? Because I said, I've got to do it, Maria. I said, this is just what I do. I need it. I said, no, it's fine. We've done well, but I need to hit this. It's a mental thing. I got to hit it. So anyway, I've now gone over it by 20K. And I said to her again, I said, don't you find it funny, Maria? Said, at the beginning of the month, I said, we're 12K short. Now I've hit it. And it's like, so yes, I do set goals. I've set another goal for the end of next year because I don't want to be in sales training for my life. I've got to hit a certain point where I can extricate myself. And I was looking at trucks yesterday. I was thinking maybe becoming a truck driver.
Mate, that is a curveball.
Exactly, because I said there's one more financial goal I need to hit. I then said once we've hit that, we only have to work just to maintain a certain level. I said we don't need a huge amount because we don't have a mortgage, we don't have any debt, we don't have any. We just need a certain level of income to keep us happy. And I said we could easily achieve that. I said that'd be awesome. And I was looking at these really cool trucks. It's like a whole caravan, you know. And then I was had to read up on EU law. Though apparently you can't have these cool sleeper cabin trucks in the EU because they don't like you living in your truck. But in America, I said maybe we could move to Florida. I could drive around the state of Florida in its cool truck, camping out all the time. So this is why I want to do it. Every life has to have different phases. I don't want to get to the end of my life and it's just been one long
Chapters, aren't they?
one long thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to have a break. I'll still dabble, maybe set up another business, but I'd like not to be on LinkedIn every day. I'd like not having to. I'd like to be able to do a job where I can come home and not think. See, I'm my own boss. You guys, if you work for yourself, you never switch off. You're never on holiday. This crap about just switch off, that doesn't work. You can't. You can switch off
You're dreaming
if you don't
about
have,
it.
if you don't have any real responsibility, you can. If you just go into work, do your bit, come home. I admire that. I didn't want to be that, but I admire it. But I'm getting to a point where I want that. And it won't last because I'll get bored, but for a while. But yeah, I thought truck driving. Yeah.
It is a bit of a curveball.
It is a curveball, isn't it? It's completely different. That's why I've just been driving around in a truck. That'd be awesome.
What's your favourite sales environment to train in?
My favourite sales training environment. Environments, so I've done a lot of work with some currency trading firms. And they have a very strong sales culture. And the guys that go into this, mainly guys, they're all a lot of them are very, very driven. And when you get driven people, if they see something that they know will work, then they like us, they latch onto it and they want to do it. So I like the environment where sales is at the forefront of the business and it's seen as the most important function. I've been in so many businesses where I just said, we'll just fire them. Oh, no, we can't do that. Why? They're useless. They're not doing anything. Oh, no, we want to. And it's so softly, but they're not doing their job. There's no culture here of go out and do your job. There's so many excuses that are accepted. So environments where I also love working with individuals because individuals who invest their own money in their own time do well. So I make it a condition when I work with a company that they have to get the salespeople to pay towards it out of their own pocket because otherwise it's a room full of hostages.
100%. Yeah, when they get that buy-in.
Yeah, they need to, because the first question I ask is when one of the first is, so whose idea was it to get sales training? Was it yours or your employees? Oh no, it's ours. Have you discussed with the employees the idea of sales training? Yes. What did they say? Well, they're interested. So have any of them come to you and said, I think I'm crap at selling, I need help? No. So why are you going to invest in them? I forced them to have this conversation. I literally just had another company come back Monday. Had that conversation with them 2 weeks ago. And they go, I hadn't thought of it like that. I said, so why don't you go away, have this chat, and if they're not willing to pay, don't worry. You never have to phone me back to tell me it's over. I don't expect you to. You're a prospect. There's no obligation. But if you do contact me, it will be to say you're in. I get an email. We're in! Yeah? Had the chat. They're willing to pay. And it's good for the employer because now I've got a group of guys that want to get
up
better.
for it. Yeah.
And I won't work with them because I said it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your money. You may as well just burn the money in front of them. So I'm big on that because I want people to get good at what I teach. Because I want them to be able to phone me up as they do. All surprise. Oh my God, it works. I know.
Is your sales training transferable to all sales environments? So, for example, remote selling now is huge, right?
Yeah.
So are your sales tactics and your strategy for selling, does it work better in certain situations or circumstances, or is it just all transferable?
I think it's obviously easier in transactional sales. So where you're selling a product or a service where an individual or maybe a group of people can make a decision. It's still equally applicable, but gets a little bit harder when you go into things like enterprise and channel selling because there's a lot more moving parts. But the fundamentals never change. Human beings buy the same way. It doesn't matter where they are in the organization. We buy emotionally and we justify intellectually. Yeah, so if you can intellectually convince somebody of something, but they still say, but I don't see why we need it, or I don't feel we need it. They don't buy, you don't get it, but it's so obvious why you need it. Yeah, I know, I get it, I understand, makes perfect sense, but I'm not interested. It's because emotionally they don't accept that this has to be done. Or you can sell to the emotion and not the intellect. And where you sell to the emotion, it's where they say, I think this is fucking brilliant, I love it, let's do it. All right. And then you get an email a few days later, you know what, Benjamin, actually on reflection, we've decided not, because in the moment, emotionally they bought him and intellectually they hadn't justified it. So you have to sell to the intellect and the emotion at the same time. And it doesn't matter if that's enterprise or channel, but it's different because you got all these different, you're going to have to do this process multiple times. And if they won't let you get to the top early, often it won't go anywhere. You know, I met with this tech company and they said the biggest problem they had is that they were never allowed to meet with the managing director, but yet it's always a managing director that said no to the project. And I said, well, then just stop meeting companies unless they let you. And when they started putting their feet down and saying, look, we're happy to come and meet with you on one condition, your managing director has to be there. And the reason we say that is we put these systems in every day, every year, have been doing for 10 years. And we know for a fact that if your managing director is not 100% on board from the beginning, this will go nowhere. Company policy, we're not even allowed to talk to you about it. Amazing how quickly MDs who had a problem would start meeting. If they won't meet with you, it tells me either they don't know the salespeople are doing this or they don't care. Why the hell would we go through a process with people that don't even have the sign-off from the person that has to make the ultimate decision? So I do it all the time. I get sales directors contact me, say, Benjamin, love to have a chat. I go, quick question. When you sat down with your MD and he explained to you why he felt your guys needed sales training, how did the conversation go? So it's a loaded question. And then he goes, well, I've not had that conversation. I go, okay, so if you were my client, this is the first thing I'd say to you. Why don't you find out from the guy that signs the check if he thinks you need sales training before you go through a whole process of talking to sales trainers? And if he says yes, come back to me. If he says no, then I guess it's over. Some people I never hear from again. Some come back and say, I've spoken with him. He's 100% on board. And he even said I can make a decision. You know, and so I've just eliminated the whole horse shit of show up, throw up, and hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
That takes courage. People say, oh, you can't do that. You can't talk to... Yes, you can. You can. But I'm not rude. I'm not a prick about it. I'm very nurturing. I'm very nice. I'm just here to help you, mate.
It's just like social constraints, isn't it? Just like the norm and going against it.
But they got the money. No, they don't. He's just contacted me to say he's interested in what I have. That means nothing. Do you know how many things I've been interested in but have never been able to afford?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mate,
All the time. But I think nothing of wasting the salesman's time talking about it.
100%.
So I know that. So I never get upset with prospects. There are no bad prospects because they can't fail at being them. Because they can act any way they like. The only people that can fail are salespeople. You fail by going through a whole process with a guy that can't make a decision. Whose fault's that? It's not his. It's yours. So why'd you do it? Oh, well, because this is the way it's done. Well, you're an idiot.
It's bang on again.
It is bang on,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
People hate hear. This is why some people loathe me, because they hate to hear it, because
Truth hurts.
it hurts.
Yeah.
And that's why they hate it.
It's interesting. If there was someone who was getting into sales,
Don't. My advice, run. Find another line of work.
if they were committed to getting into sales,
Yes.
how would you recommend approaching the sales industry?
What do you mean? Is it finding a job, or once you're in it, what do you do?
Their skill set.
You need to try and find someone in the organisation that is apparently good at selling and watch and observe them and see if you can see what they're doing has a repeatable pattern to it and then mimic them. Yeah? Or hire someone like me. You've got to go to someone that knows what they're doing. And not just they're good, they're able to tell you why. So why did that happen? Oh, so you remember earlier in the conversation I asked this and he said this and I said, see, I know that when I do that, we always get them to this point. And that's a point I'm trying to get them. If I can't get them to that point, they're never going to buy. Oh, yeah? If they can't do that, then they don't know what they're doing. And it's like with anything. You can go, people hate this, sales directors do. I've been in business now for 20 years. I don't know what sales directors actually do. No one's been able to tell me what, because they don't prospect, they don't seem to train, and they don't coach.
Manage KPIs?
Yeah.
Yeah, just look over the
Well,
reports.
it's like, so they're superfluous. Most don't need to exist. And most KPIs they measure are for vanity.
Yeah.
It's turnover, but it's profit that matters, as long as we hit our figures. Yeah, that's but your guys are discounting. So why do you encourage a culture of discounting? Well, we hit our numbers. Yeah, but you would hit it a lot earlier with a lot less work. You're making more money. Doesn't matter. I just got to hit now. So I still don't know what they do every day. So that's interesting. That's why I avoid them. I don't like talking to them. It's because I'm a threat too. I've actually had an MD turn to a sales director in a meeting once and actually say, so what do you actually do then?
What did he say?
He just looked flummoxed, right? Because I've been saying all these things at the MD. Yes. So why don't we do any of that? I don't know. He's your sales. So what do you do?
You've stitched him up.
Yeah. So that's why I avoid sales directors, because it's not pleasant for them. Yeah.
It's it's one of those roles where now you're saying it leads me to think like what do they actually
What
do?
do they actually do?
Just
They
like
don't coach. They don't train.
Part-time
They
manager.
don't prospect. They turn up for the big deals to be at the end for the glory moment.
Yeah.
Other than that, what do you do?
Not a lot.
No, I still don't get it right.
Yeah, I'm trying to piece it together now, and I can't think like exactly what it is. What they specifically do.
Half 10.
subtle.
The most inconspicuous.
Shite.
Half 10.
I didn't realise.
Well, let's wrap things up
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Obviously, we always leave it with a couple of questions. We have touched on one of those questions already, but I do want to ask, what is next in the chapter for you as an individual?
Well, as an individual, so my business, it's ironic. I'm going to become an order taker. So I'm a one-man band, and I've got to a point where I'm kind of at capacity. I don't want to hire people. I don't want to be an employer. I don't want all the headache. So I have to move more stuff online. So I've spent the last few months filming and recording boot camps. So from next year, I'm launching a new website, and then people can, rather than having to wait for me to put on my live boot camps, they can physically sign up to a boot camp. So my job then is to become a marketer, just like all of these businesses. So I've built the reputation, I built the brand. Now I just want to take orders, which is funny, but and I always say that once you get really good at something, you no longer have to do it. Once you get really good at prospecting, it's funny you don't have to prospect anymore because the business is coming to you because you got so good at it that, business comes. It's same. I've got so good now at selling and I'm always selling that it's at the point where I don't need to keep doing it. I've got people. I get people just book onto my course that I've never talked to, never met. People booking consult calls, never had any engagement with them. It's because they've seen enough to say, I believe this guy can help me. So my business model now is to push it all online, do less in person, get a better life balance. So that's the next step.
Yeah.
And then that's just a recurring revenue that requires just the odd update. So that's the natural trajectory, because I can't keep doing the level and maintaining the same level of energy and enthusiasm and the training that I do, because it is tiring.
Must be hard to keep up that energy.
It is tiring. And like I say, it's like it's almost like I said, it's like a one-man show. I have a routine. Nothing in my world changes. Same questions, same objections, same challenges, same problems. To them, it's all brand new and amazing. To me, it's the same routine day in, day out. And I like it, and I'm good at it, and I get better and better at it. But, it's time to do something slightly different.
It's the evolution, right?
The evolution. You get to the point where I don't need to do this all the time now.
100%. Have you got anything else to ask, bro?
A bit of a strange one, but
Go for it.
what's your opinion on boiler room sales environments?
Do you define what do you mean by boiler room? Because that's a very loaded term, right? What do you mean?
The harsh environment that they have there. What's your opinion on that?
It depends. I don't believe in I think you should have a culture, an office environment that encourages the right behaviour. So in order to encourage the right behaviour, you have to measure the right things. So when I started with a company, big company, the guys were measured on talk time. They had to be on the phone for 180 minutes. And I said, why? Because they need to be talking. I said, but what behaviour does that encourage, do you think?
Chatting shit.
Talking for a long time to someone that won't or can't buy.
Yeah.
It's just to hit minutes. So you're encouraging behaviour that's non-productive. So what we want to encourage is behaviour that's productive. What I know is this: you need to be talking to decision makers, and you need to be getting out your little pitch, the things you fix. So your goal should be you need to talk to X amount of decision makers every day. And you'd work out backwards, average order value, final meetings, pitch. And you're able to figure out, I need to talk to 4 MDs a day, 5 days a week. That's 20 managing directors. At the end of that week, I should have 2 to 3 appointments. That gives me 12 a month. Of those 12, I need to close at least 3 in order for me to hit my average order value. So that's my behavior. And if you talk to the 4, it could be done by 9:30 if you get in early. You can have 4. No, you can do whatever you like for the rest of the day. I don't care. You just got to do that every day. Doesn't matter. You could talk to them for 5 minutes and get an appointment. It could be talk to them for 20 minutes, get the appointment. As long as you have 4 conversations every day at director level with the companies you want to get in front of, you'll be fine. And if at the end of the week you've had those 20 conversations, but you've achieved nothing, it's not because you're lazy and it's not because you're doing the behavior. So it means something you're saying or how you're saying it's wrong. Now we can work on that so we can fix it. We don't have to wait to the end of the quarter or the month. We know at the end of the week. You've done the behavior. Good. But it hasn't worked. So it's either what you're saying or how you're saying that's not right. Let's listen to the calls and figure out why you're fucking up.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Standard.
That's all you do. You don't need, you got a revenue target. No. This is the target. If you talk to this many people every day consistently, we know you are going to sell.
You make it sound so simple.
Because it is.
I know, man.
Yeah.
It's just so overcomplicated. All these fancy, that's what keeps sales directors in business, all these fancy KPIs and all these dashboards. And
how important to the salesman is momentum?
Again, salespeople are like roller coasters. They go up and down. Again, that comes back to mindset. So when they win, they're on a high. When they lose, they're on a low. You got to eliminate that. So it's taking out the emotional attachment. Once you remove, so even if I get a sale, I'm still not running around like a contestant from The Price is Right. So, yeah, well, I kind of figured it was going to happen. Oh, I kind of figured I wasn't going to win that one because of what happened in the meeting. So I always am emotionally detached. It's easier said than done, because once you take the emotion out of the process, it's just like a lawyer or a surgeon. They get to the end of the operation and the patient dies a few days later. Should I feel upset about that? Depends. Did I do anything wrong? So they have an autopsy and they investigate the operation. And they say the surgeon did absolutely everything right. There is nothing we can see in what this guy did. This person died because of some intervening act or so. Oh, it's just not their time. It's life. People die. The surgeon did nothing wrong. In that case, why would I have any emotional? Well, fine. I get on with my life. Same with the lawyer. We lost. Why did we lose? You did nothing wrong. You did the best defense legally. You were competent. There's nothing else anyone could have done better. The guy was guilty. The facts were against him. You did nothing wrong. But if they do an investigation and it turns out you were negligent or you were incompetent, then you get punished. You get sanctioned. And that's when you can feel. But then you're not angry at what happened. You're angry at you. So now you either get better and don't let it happen again. So that's how you create a detachment. It's, I'm a professional. My job isn't to be involved. We either get the deal, we don't get it. It doesn't really matter. What matters is how we get there. At the end of the sale, I want to be able to say how we got here. If I can't do that, then it doesn't matter. And I've been frustrated when people have just said, all right, I'm in. Damn it.
I wanted a bit of fight.
Yeah, it's like, it can't just work like that. Yeah, but it does. So that loses a bit of the challenge. It's like, well, I don't know why that, what will I do? But that's not really what I want. Yeah. So that's how you do it. So you've got to eliminate. So I'm never thinking, got to get a meeting, got to get a sale, got to get a deal. No, that's a detachment to the outcome. Mine is, I hope I get the opening bit right. I got to do that right. I got to nail him down. I'm going, make sure he doesn't wiggle off. Because when I did that thing we did with you at the beginning, you get wishy-washy answers. Maybe. See, I won't take that. I go, well, what do you mean by maybe? Why don't you just say, no, you're not going to do it? No, I don't want to say that. Then say yes. See, now the pressure's where it belongs. This isn't mine. Look, if we can't have an open, this ain't going to go anywhere. So I got to get that right. If I get all that right, the outcome, regardless, will probably be the right one. Even if damn it, I wanted that deal. But I lost because this, and this.
It's just the process and the product.
The process and the product. A good lawyer, a good surgeon. I do my job well. Whatever happens at the end, happens. As long as I don't screw up on the way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I move on to the next client, the next patient. Same thing. And that's a professional, emotionally detached. And that's skill and mindset. And most salespeople don't have that. They just turn up and show up, throw up, and hope, as I say.
Yeah. Man, I absolutely love that philosophy on sales.
Great.
That's the only way I can describe it, because it is a philosophy in itself.
And it becomes a total skill. My life is so incredibly boring. I said you can follow me around. Nothing exciting happens. It's the same conversation over and over again because my world never changes. I get the same objections, the same problems. I know. It's just like a doctor. There's not a lot. A surgeon never cuts into a body and goes, oh my, what the fuck is that? There's nothing in the human body that shocks or surprises a surgeon. Nothing can happen in the surgery that, well, I'm not prepared for this. They're ready for everything. And you should be the same with your product or service. There's nothing your prospect should be able to say or do that you haven't been able to plan for. And if it does surprise you, then you're a novice.
Yeah, you need to learn it.
You need to go away and figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, that's something that everyone sort of has to get over, regardless of what you're doing in the initial stages, is just that novice period.
Yeah.
As soon as you get over that, you should know the product inside out and you should be able to deal with things, especially from the prospect's perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate, obviously that kind of brings us full circle to where we're at today. Where can people find you?
LinkedIn or YouTube. So obviously LinkedIn, my name, or UK's Most Hated Sales Trainer. LinkedIn, UK's Most Hated Sales Trainer, or ironically, my website, UK's Most Hated Sales Trainer.com. That's where you'll find me. Yeah.
Mate, that was, and obviously thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank
We
you for having
really
me.
appreciate it. It was class. What do you think,
I
Al?
had such a great time. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for asking me on. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Class, mate. Thank you.